Hello and welcome back to Lorehammer. My name is Eric.
Eric-san. I'm Mark.
Yes, thank you for joining us, Mark. Always a pleasure when you join us.
That's what I've been
Rare
told.
occurrence.
A rare occurrence, yeah.
It's good to have you back.
Okay. Thank
Yeah.
you. Thank you for having me in my own house. Thank
You're
you.
welcome.
Thank you for allowing me to do this.
Also joining us today are Ian.
Aha.
Hi.
How are you?
Good.
Good. And James.
Hello.
How you doing?
Good. I've thought of 17 new controversies that I can start on your podcast today.
This is the right episode for it. So.
I do have something special for you to read
damn
specifically
it.
during this episode, but we'll get to it.
I
when we
did
get
see
to
that
it.
too. I would like to point out James has shaved his face.
That's me.
And
Oh,
I'm
yeah.
a little uncomfortable.
He walked in. I thought I was getting robbed, but then it was just him.
Oh, it's just
It's like
changed.
meeting a new person, you know?
Yeah.
It really is, though. Like, you see it for so long, and then they just change who they are with a swish of a blade.
What made you decide?
It was getting gross. It was a
Like
little.
this was your decision?
yeah,
not
it was
a-
a little. It was a little nasty.
I
Morgan hates it when I don't know. Yeah, she hates it when I cut my beard
Sure,
because
sure.
then my face is all scratchy forever.
until it like
Yeah.
gets like to like point where it's soft again. Yeah.
Yeah.
I like the scratch.
I
I also
gotta-
cut my. Like I haven't used my blade in a while, and I cut myself a lot when I did it.
That's a lot. Like 4 times.
Like it was bleeding down my neck.
Wow.
Was it like do you just use like the standard razors or do you like a straight blade?
I use a safety
Okay.
razor. Yeah.
Well, you know what you should do? You should go to Harry's Razors and
Hey,
you get yourself
they don't give
a-
us any money.
Oh yeah, shoot. Sorry, I thought that was just what
No.
most people do. You know,
They don't
But,
give us
okay.
any money, so we don't
All right.
speak for them. But I know how you feel though. I booked an appointment at a barber shop, but I had to wait 2 weeks from when I booked it to when I'm getting it.
That's is that not normal?
No.
You-
Oh.
You book
You
your
can-
haircuts 2 weeks in advance?
Yeah, is
Normal?
that what you do? Normally I'm
Like
like,
a
hey,
week,
are you
maybe?
free today? Like,
Oh, I don't know.
Oh, I usually just walk in and say, "Can I
Sure.
have a haircut?"
yeah.
I have only paid for one haircut in my life, so
Really?
So I'm out of my league in this conversation.
Yeah, dirty secret. I've even cut his hair before.
Oh yes. Oh,
And
yes.
not the ones on his head.
what you got to do the full body shave.
Not that head.
All the hair has to be equal length.
Ew.
Yeah.
You have to shave that on him? Nasty.
Mark's weird.
You got a hairy head. What can I say?
Yeah.
That's a start.
But today's episode is about Tyranids and non-synapse creatures. So
Yeah.
in our last Tyranid episode, we discussed the Hive Mind, I believe.
Yeah. Originally, that episode was supposed to be called Synapse Creatures, but then we realized, Hive Mind's better.
Hive Mind is much better. It's but so this episode, so we would have covered a lot of creatures in that one
Yeah.
that specifically do synapse with
Yeah.
the Hive Mind, and then this episode is all about creatures that didn't make that episode because they aren't good enough.
Didn't adapt.
Yeah. But before we get into that, we
Yeah.
got a 40K is not funny for you.
Yeah, I found a little joke, just a little 40K humor for you guys. What is the difference between your ex-boyfriend or girlfriend and your Tyranid swarm?
What?
Well, one's an ugly monstrosity with an acidic tongue and a highly evolved ability to suck your wallet dry, and the other is a fictional 40K army.
Who hurt you? Who hurt you?
Too many people.
Wow, I'm laughing.
Look at the laughter.
Yeah,
Wrong
that was a good one.
You know what? Screw you guys.
It
Did
might
you
have
write
not
that
helped.
yourself?
The segment
Oh.
is titled 40K is not funny. So
Yeah,
you're doing
exactly.
well.
Doing okay.
Really good.
Yeah, that was appropriate.
Really good bad joke.
Papa Eric, thank you.
We're never
For telling
having
us
them
that
back
bad joke.
on.
Well, we'll see.
It's also Christian.
That's the thing. It's
Christian
like, it's
or me?
either them or shoot.
That's the thing you gotta decide.
Yeah, Christian wouldn't have laughed at that either. So I guess either way I lose.
You do?
Well,
Okay.
let's you know what? Since apparently no one appreciates humor in this
Yeah,
room,
no,
let's
no.
just get right into the episode. Today is a cut and dry episode. There's only learning, there's no fun.
Yeah.
So
As is the Tyranid way.
all right, let's get into it.
Yeah.
So what is synapse?
Yeah. So, Synapse is a psychic ability given to specific Tyranid breeds within their race. These species are usually considered leaders by observance, as their Synapse ability allows them to direct or control the Tyranid swarm around them.
The true essence of this communication or control is hard, if not impossible, to quantify. The will of the collective Tyranid race is gathered in the hive mind and shared through these psychic leashings or synapse. But if you want more information about how like the hive mind works and our understanding of it, we kind of just created our own fleshed out version of the hive mind. Like really, we took we kind of like took the little tidbits of what we had and presented it in a way that we thought made the most sense, because they don't really go into what the hive mind is. So we did our best guess on
I see
that.
what you're saying.
Yeah.
We
I see
wired in, we spoke with it, you know.
Yeah.
We
It was
got
one of
some
the guests.
information.
The guess was it's like the Rick
Timmy-
and Morty like Unity, like
Yeah.
that
jeez.
creature that's everywhere. And, yeah.
The hive mind.
Yeah, but if you want more information about the hive mind and even just Synapse, we talk about it pretty much in length and detail
Yeah.
on episode 61.
Yeah,
So
Yeah. That was all about it. So, the one cool thing is, like the hive mind, it's not a single creature, it's a collective of the whole race. That's it.
Yep.
That's all I have
Cool.
to say.
That's awesome.
Very cool.
It is very cool. A constant chittering that decides the movements of billions of little organisms.
Yeah. All of them combining together to create.
But that's not what we're talking about today.
We're specifically talking about the lack of that, actually. So the effects, so that's what Synapse is, but the effects of what Synapse does, we're going to really quickly go over that. It being synapsed to the hive mind grants many benefits, and even though the loss of individual control we would normally find appalling, to a Tyranid creature, it's not a big deal.
Yeah.
They don't care. In fact, I would argue that they even welcome being joined into the hive mind.
Well, you could probably even think of it as like your brain cells aren't upset that they're being like they're part of your brain. It's just one aspect of the mind.
Yeah.
So,
But if the finger had its own ability to do whatever it wanted, like on a finger, it can only do so much. But as soon as it's joined to the whole body, it can accomplish more. I think that's what I'm trying to say is like the little organisms, like I think they have an understanding that they're much greater together. That's the
I don't
hive
even know if they
mind.
have an understanding. They just they probably just have no, like,
I don't think there's much thought going
I
on
think they
beyond
try-
base instinct.
You don't think they would try to go back to Synapse?
I think just because that's their instinct, but I don't think it's like,
yeah.
yes, well, it's Synapse. Like,
that's
Yeah.
an interesting question. I don't know
Yeah.
if they would try and go back to Synapse. I
Every
think
time-
that Synapse would have to be brought to them.
every time the synapse is lost, all the non-synapse creatures just go to base instincts. That's what it
For them,
says.
Doesn't necessarily
It
include
is,
seeking
but
Synapse.
Base instincts is not technically just like it's not a simple directive.
No, it's
No.
different
Like
for
the
each
more
organism.
the more
Yeah.
we looked at it, some of their like basic instincts are actually quite like
Yeah.
involved and very particular.
Sure, but but they go to animalistic. They're not like they're not coordinating. They're not communicating. They're not.
Right.
They're just doing what they'd always do, no matter what.
yeah.
Yeah.
So,
But I'm okay. Never mind.
you know what, Eric?
Ignore.
You just need to do some research beforehand.
Oh, good. Next point, then, I guess. So the most notable effect of being synapsed is the higher level thinking that is achieved. Learning and adapting to ongoing battlefield situations, as well as being able to initiate their own tactics. They can set up feints, counter-deploy, or engage in any other tactic that will be beneficial that is normally against their instinctual programming.
Yes. And that's the thing. Like, without Synapse, they still function. They're still fine. It's just when they get that Synapse, they can do things that are normally not common for them.
Right, yes. Things that would normally go against their basic instincts.
Yeah.
Like retreating.
Yeah.
So, fear is also no longer an issue, as the hive mind is able to overpower a Tyranid's body functions, allowing for endless bugs to be sacrificed in order to take out an enemy fortification. As long as a Synapse creature is nearby, no amount of losses will stop a Tyranid advance.
Yeah, they're just send swarms at that wall, and it doesn't matter.
Is there a reason why they'd have fear at all? Why would they program fear into them? Like, why would?
Self-preservation?
Yeah, but if they're gonna ignore that when they're in Synapse anyway, what's the point?
They don't have to ignore that. They're just saying it can be overridden by the Hive Mind.
Sure.
Right,
Like
'cause
there's
like,
times when it's good and times when it's bad, but a base instinct like creature will always follow its like instinct, whereas a Hive Mind is able to assess a situation and decide
push it
that
through.
okay, yeah, like right now we don't want to do that, so let's
Sure.
push through those instincts.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd argue that fear is probably present without Synapse. Like even some of the organisms like hide and lurk as like a
Yeah.
baser. Like that's what
Yeah,
they
like
can do when they don't have something telling them what else to do. Is kind of like, well, I'm a weak little thing. Like I, I kind of have to hide and be afraid of my surroundings.
yeah,
Sure. All right. I'll allow it.
perfect.
There's also like really in the earlier codexes they also describe it that Tyranids even kill themselves and like other Tyranids in the mad rush that they create. So like the Hive Mind like overpowers like your desire to, I don't know, not kill each other
Not
and
trample your
not trample your
brood
friend,
brother.
and you just rush and
Yeah.
know like life is inconsequential to the Hive Mind, right? Even
Yeah.
though as an individual, like you might fight back if something stabs you or
yeah,
whatever.
or even just have a reflex and whatever.
Yeah, exactly. But
Yeah.
the Hive Mind overrides that.
Yeah.
So it's also described that Synapse creatures never have to worry about that because they can control the flow of creatures around them.
Sure.
So
Yeah. Synapse can be so powerful that even when the life force leaves a Tyranid creature, the synapse can still possess it for a brief while, driving the creature ever onward. We don't know if there's like no example of how long this could be, but
That's interesting.
yeah,
Yeah,
it's a brief couple seconds. It
Right.
might just be that last little bit to push the bug a couple steps forward or slice the opponent or whatever.
Yeah.
But
it's not an actual
Yeah.
inhabiting a dead body. There's not a presence inside.
yeah,
It's-
exactly. Yeah.
That's interesting though, because you'd think like once the brain dies, it wouldn't be able to like receive signal, I guess.
Yeah.
But it depends like how it died. Maybe
in-
if it's like the heart stops, then the brain could live for, a couple more pumps of blood or something, and it could
Yeah.
continue communicating.
Yeah, it's not a super crazy effect, but
Right.
This comes from a codex, and in the codex they describe that this ability allows people to ignore what they titled grievous wounds and instant deaths.
Sure.
So
Yeah.
that's a very old rule
Yeah.
in 40k, and it meant like you couldn't obliterate a Tyranid. The Hive Mind for some reason was able to push through
Yeah.
whatever terrible thing was about to happen.
Yeah.
So.
I mean, I saw a video on the internet of a wasp whose head got cut off, and the wasp grabbed its own head and then flew away.
Oh my god. I
So-
don't like that.
I mean,
Is it a
and
murder hornet?
I don't remember, but like it's a bug. That was my reference. But I've also, chickens will run around for like hours with their
Yeah.
heads cut off still.
Yeah.
So
I'm not a
Yeah,
science
still.
person.
Well,
I don't know.
my understanding of that is that most of a chicken's brain is in its neck. So if you
Oh,
cut
so
it
it's
specifically,
actually-
yeah,
yeah, mine too.
That's weird. Oh, nice.
Okay.
There's a little factoid for you.
Just a little fun.
The other huge benefit of Synapse is during times of war, communication is key. Through the use of the Hive Mind and Synapse creatures, every living thing in the Tyranid race is always aware of the most recent developments. Miscommunications can also never happen. They know exactly
Yeah.
what needs to be done. It's just perfect communication. And all the information is sent directly into each creature's brain. So it's also instantaneous, something that happens miles away on the battlefield.
They can
Everyone
react to
instantly
it right
knows.
away.
Yeah, exactly. There's no loss of time. It's just all
Yeah.
dialed in.
Which would be super confusing to fight against. Like if you imagine like holding down a bastion and then all of a sudden like the entire force just like beelines 90 degrees
Yeah.
to like something that's happening miles away. You're like, how do you react to that, right?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah, you could have even just about been like overrun or something like that.
and then they leave.
Yeah, and you're like,
because the Hive Mind has decided that pushing another front is going to be more successful or something.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, it's really interesting.
Yeah, it wouldn't be fun to fight.
All they need to do is upload a virus into the mothership of the Hive Mind.
Is that how that
The
works?
common cold. type thing or
The
what?
coronavirus.
Oh.
It's a blessing in disguise. We'll get bats. We'll fly them at.
So that is like the benefits. That's what Synapse is, and the benefits of being Synapse.
It just makes you more efficient. It gives you the ability to do something that is outside of a standard creature's instincts or behavioral patterns, and it just keeps everything linked together. Keeps information just everyone's always aware.
Yeah, but unfortunately, Tyranids will not always be linked to the Hive Mind. And as sometimes the Synapse creature leading the lesser beasts, they die, or these non-synapsed creatures just find themselves out of range of their handler beast. I don't know, their Synapse master.
Yeah.
Whatever it is. But whatever the case may be, a non-synapse creature is not entirely useless without synapse. So they revert back to their feral state with bestial instincts.
Yeah. I think that's one thing people often assume too, is that when they're
Feral
synapse-
and bestial.
Sure, yeah.
Yeah. That's what, well, sorry. Never mind. Continue your thought.
I'll continue my thought.
Yeah.
So feral and no.
He got me.
No, oh, what was my thought? Oh, okay. That was so one people often think that when like the synapse creatures die, that the Tyranids are like, you've cut off the head of the beast, and now
Right.
the creatures are now useless, and you've won because you've killed them. But like, all those beasts are still incredibly dangerous. They're all still programmed to kill you.
Yes.
Yeah, I
Like-
think it's easier to like predict, or maybe like you studied their behavioral
Yeah.
patterns as like a baser instinct, so that you
Yeah.
can be like, okay, we killed a hive tyrant. All of these hormigons are going to rush our front line, so we can blah blah blah. Like you can plan
That's
against
exactly
it.
what it is, though.
Yeah.
You
Like,
can plan against it instead of like having to fight another general's brain, right?
Yeah.
If that's the case, I think the perception comes from the books, though.
It does.
Yes.
I've read like when reading stuff, it's always like,
the
okay,
head off the
they killed
snake.
the killed the big thing, and then it's just they just mop up. Like it's usually just a line after. Okay, yeah,
and that's
they
not
killed it.
how it should be. It definitely should get easier.
Yeah.
But it should not all of a sudden be like, oh, like cut off the head, we instantly win. Like that's
Yeah.
not how it should be with Tyranids at all. Like these creatures are all designed to perform a task, and
Yeah.
lacking the hive mind just means that they're going to perform that task.
Yeah.
And the task is still to kill you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Some of them actually even get more dangerous when you kill the synapse creature. It sends them into like a berserker mode. We'll get into it later, but some of them actually get even more dangerous.
People think that feral and bestial state, and this is what I was going to say, people think that means like just an animal. And that's not what these are. They're still designed to be killing machines.
Yeah. But like even like animals, man, like are fucking crazy, some of
Sure,
them.
but some animals like
Some animals are like my fucking cat.
yeah.
Right.
And then others are like my
And-
other fucking cat.
No.
One wants to just cuddle and the other wants to murder me. you
Yes,
know?
whereas every single one of these creatures is designed and programmed to rip your face off.
yeah.
So even killing the
Yeah.
hive tyrant, great job. Now you have thousands of termagants to
Yeah.
deal with, right? So
Sure, but you also mentioned too, like they might end up fighting themselves a little bit, and start biting at you.
the
True.
Yep.
So the way I kind of have come to understand the hive mind is in its most simple and its easiest essence is the hive mind like can change target priority. And that's like it's a really boiled down
Yeah.
simplistic way to view it, and obviously it's way more complex. But if there is a line of termagants and they're facing you, if there's no synapse creature, you can be very confident about what those are going to do. They're going to rush you and try to kill you. With the synapse, that's when the unpredictability comes into play. So that's just, they're not less dangerous. They're just slightly more predictable.
I feel like you can kind of abstract it in like the tabletop terms with like there's rules for when you are not in synapse.
Yeah.
And they have like, okay, you're going to have to move towards or shoot the closest thing or something like that.
Yeah.
But if you're synapse, then you as the player, the general, can be this hive mind and place your units outside of those baser instincts
Yes.
and make the maneuvers unpredictably, right?
That's exactly it though. Like if you choose to you can either follow the base instincts or you take a penalty trying to do anything else, right? So that's why I think they're slightly more predictable,
Yeah.
right? Outside the synapse.
Yeah.
Okay, but that doesn't mean they're useless.
Exactly.
And that's what we're going to try and talk about today is what creatures do when they lack the synapse.
Sure. So there's two main instincts, and these are very loose terms. Two main instincts of non-synapse creatures that can be lumped into either lurk or feed. A passive state and an aggressive state. Each creature may have its own unique instinct, unique combination. Like one might be 90% lurk, and then when there's that 10% chance that it's going to succeed, it might go feed. Like,
Right.
some might only be 100% lurk. Like they'll have their
They
own.
never they
will
avoid
never-
people completely.
Exactly.
Until synapse returns, they are just dormant or
And
whatever.
then others might just be 100%. You go out and you just rampage until you're dead.
Yeah.
And it could be any combination of the two. Those are the two main ones. So there's also plenty of other instincts depending on the creatures. Like there's some that are
Some will
developed for
birth or something.
Yeah, just birth
Yeah.
wildly, like Turvagons.
Yeah.
Are they synapse?
Turvagons are.
Are they for the whole race or just for the creatures they birth?
No, they just have a special connection with the creatures they
Yeah.
birth.
But
But they are synapse.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, they're still a synapse conduit, but they can
They just have a special connection with the things they birth.
Okay.
Yeah.
That was my young little Termagant 793.
I always
He went on.
I loved him.
He managed to rip off 17
A
Space
chipper
Marines
young
heads.
lad he
A
was.
lot of Space Marine heads.
That's right. That's why I'm so proud.
So the two main instincts that we kind of come across, lurk is an instinct usually taken on by smaller and less deadly Tyranid creatures.
Yeah.
They'll try and preserve their lives by finding nearby cover to hide in and wait. They would obviously defend themselves if attacked, but they
Yeah.
don't openly seek out enemies to engage. Because you'll normally just see them fleeing or burrowing or hiding or something. Anything to avoid confrontation.
Yeah.
And then they will hide out until brought back under control by a synapse creature.
Yeah.
And then, their non-synapse life is over, and now they join back to the Hive Mind, and the Hive Mind can direct them to do anything it wants.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah, like some are even more cowardly than this. Like so they might even just fall back at any form of combat. It's not even that they defend themselves at all.
Like just run wildly away from it.
Anything. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. So even these two categories, like there's a huge difference
Yeah.
in it.
You can almost see like lurk and feed as like just a type.
Sure.
Like you and I will lurk differently, but in the end, both of us are lurking,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Because we're not being actively aggressive.
Exactly.
Right? Whereas you're gonna fight one way and I'm gonna fight another, but both of us are engaging in more aggressive behaviors
Yeah.
outside the Hive Mind. So
Yeah.
you don't have to say like, it's either lurk or feed.
Yeah.
Right? Those are just to kind of get you in the mood of understanding how. So.
Yeah. So feed is more the aggressive stance, and it doesn't necessarily mean they're just going out and eating things. It just means that they're aggressive. They're going to go out kill, and if they eat, great. It doesn't mean that they're just going out and eating.
Yeah.
But this instinct is usually taken on by larger, more deadly Tyranid creatures. They will actively hunt down and destroy all non-Tyranid life forms, and even occasionally Tyranid life forms. Like, you know,
Sure.
if you got a rampage in Carnifex, you got a rampage in
Yeah,
Carnifex.
he's not going to care what's in front of him.
Yeah. Not driven by self-preservation, but by the overwhelming desire to feed, to destroy. Chances are good these beasts will be long dead because of their rampages, that they might never come back under the sway of the Hive Mind.
Right.
They'll just go until they're dead.
But yeah, those are like the two basic feral ways to describe these Tyranids in their feral states
Yeah.
without the Hive Mind.
It's kind of funny that they call it feed because let's say that they do get separated from synapse. I guess it doesn't necessarily mean that like the force couldn't harvest afterwards, but like maybe they're separated entirely from the force, or like that head is cut off or whatever. It's interesting because they wouldn't really be feeding to, like, a Carnifex doesn't eat for calories to sustain its own life, right? Like
Correct.
it feeds to like create biomass to be siphoned into the fleet to produce more later.
Maybe attack is like the better word to
Yeah,
use,
yeah.
right?
Attack
So-
is definitely...
It's just interesting
but
that they
some
call it
creatures
feed.
are actually driven by the desire to feed.
Yeah.
And then the Tyranid
like
itself...
a personal hunger almost.
Yeah. No, like
okay.
some of the Tyranids actually do, like, They specifically go to feed, and then they move on and feed again and feed and feed, and they
Right.
actually are draining victims. Whereas I agree, a Carnifex is causing destruction for its sake. He's
Yeah.
not stopping and
Yeah.
eating the guts out of every guardsman that he murders.
Yeah,
So,
exactly.
Yeah.
So yeah, we're gonna start describing all the Tyranid species, but before we do that, we're just gonna talk quickly about biomorphs, because almost every Tyranid organization or species follows a similar vein in their appearance and adaptations that they take on. Even though there are countless species and more are constantly being created, they are all directed and driven by the hive mind. One common feature of the Tyranid race is their ability to swap in and out different biomorphs on the body. This allows the hive mind to create a standard template body with the ability to adapt quickly to new obstacles. So yeah, when we're talking about all the species, we're not going to go into, and this species can take this, and this biomorph. Like, realistically, you could put crushing claws on a termagant. Like, why not? Eric.
There is a line that says some bodies can't sustain certain biomorphs.
Sure.
And that would be like,
Yeah.
that's the
But
line.
if
But
you
I know
ma-
what you're trying to
yeah,
say.
yeah, like, You could make miniature crushing
of
claws.
course,
you know.
absolutely. And
Right.
put the same
Baby ones.
thing
They're
on
they're
them.
growing.
Yeah. But yes. Yeah.
Yeah,
You
so-
can't put one of those what's that massive cannon on an exocrine? Like you can't put one of
Bioacid
those.
cannon.
You can't put like that same
Bio barrage
scale
or something.
onto a tiny little termagant.
Yeah, there are some limitations, but there's also a lot of flexibility.
Oh, yes.
And it's intentionally designed that way by the hive mind to be able to just swap in and out these key biomorphs to be able to get the most use out of them.
Yeah, so we've already even done like a biomorph episode.
Yeah.
So if you want to talk more just about biomorphs or you're just lacking some information, just go to episode 50.
Yeah.
And
We
then
talk
come back.
about all the biomorphs, how they work.
Claws and teeth.
Leaping.
Leaping. Yeah.
That's my favorite one.
That's the best one of them all. So we'll get into species. The Tyranid race comprises of many different species, each developed for a specific purpose by the hive mind. So we've broken this down into different categories, or the Imperium has, I suppose.
Right, yeah.
Yeah, but we pretty much followed them. We changed a couple things around because not all of it seemed to fit the sizings that we saw. But
Yeah. So the first thing we're going to start with is bioships.
So these are huge spacefaring organisms that travel the void. They transport Tyranid creatures from feeding place to feeding place. There's many different types of them, as you can see from these particularly grainy pictures.
That's all they had.
So there's all the way from large hive ships all the way to small attack ships.
Yeah. So they got ships that are kilometers long to ships that are just,
A single organism that lives and fights in space.
Yeah.
So their purposes vary from transport to boarding vessels to harassment ships. Anything that you can think of as a necessity, they have an organism that they've grown
Yeah.
and fulfills that role.
Yeah.
In the same way that when the Imperium sees a need, they just build a new ship for it.
Yeah.
The hive mind will just birth a new ship
Yeah.
to fulfill whatever need they're lacking.
Yeah.
So, which is very cool.
Very cool.
Very
they,
cool.
They look very cool too.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love like the bacterial kind of aesthetic that most of the ships have. Like they look like
Yeah.
weird like bugs that would be floating through your bloodstream or something.
You
but
gotta
they're
get
just
yourself
floating
checked
through
out.
space.
That's what
Yeah.
you got.
Is that what's floating around
Yeah,
your
yeah.
bloodstream?
It is.
Oh, God.
I'm a little nervous.
This one specifically.
Oh, no, not the pincher one.
He grabs his blood cells and just squishes them. Squeeze.
Oh, it's my arm.
So we did do a Tyranid Hive Fleet episode where we talked about all the different ships. We broke down what they all are. So we're not
Yeah.
going to go over that again. We are going to tell you which ones are Synapse and which ones are not, though.
Yeah. So
really-
only the hive ship is a synapse creature.
Yeah.
And then everything else, devourers, razor fiends, dark prowlers, void fiends, void prowlers, krakens, vanguard drones, war drones, and you guessed it, stalker drones. So those are all
That's a lot of drones. I think even narwhals.
I was
forgot
about
put
to
them.
ask what the like their
Narwhals.
warp
Are
engine.
non-synapse.
Yeah.
It's interesting.
yeah.
I'm pretty. I just think I didn't know how to spell it, so I didn't
Oh.
put it down.
Is it
That's-
spelled like the white?
It's pretty much spelt like a narwhal.
Yeah.
All right.
That's the cool one.
that
That's
judgment in your voice?
That's
I
a
don't know.
gravitational
That's-
pull warp engine.
Yeah. So they're pretty cool though. Like they look
Lord's always
very
correct.
much like they got their chitin carapace on them. They're very cool. I'd love to do some Battlefleet Gothic with them, but
Oh,
Yeah.
I would. They
That
need to
would be
release
cool.
that, and we'll be getting heavy.
Yeah.
we're getting heavy.
okay. So now we're gonna get into Biotitans as our next thing. We
Ooh.
go listen to episode. Just kidding. That was the last episode you gotta listen to
And
before
on
you
this
finish
episode, we tell you the other episodes we've done.
Yeah. Well, at this point, there's just so much we've covered.
Yeah, but like it all stacks. So
Yeah.
okay. So Biotitans.
So the first one we're going to talk about is the Hierophant. It's one of the largest Tyranid creatures and only seen at the forefront of major assaults.
Yeah.
Even though it's massive, it's spindly, making it harder to hit despite its size. So as you can see, it's not like a hulking monster.
No, it's just
right?
like tall and
It's lithe and
Yeah.
spindly. I think that's the right way to describe it. So
I think it's like honestly just large enough, like physically, that it can carry like the biggest weapons for, like how large it is. You know, like it doesn't have to be like this big bulky thing. It just
Yeah.
has to be able to carry.
as long as it can sustain the weapon,
They're just thinking about efficiency, right?
Yeah.
With the energy that they need to produce. Yeah, it's cool.
I read somebody one time. So this creature, it stands on like 4 spiked scything talons, and somebody did the math on. They give an actual weight of the Hierophant, and then they're like, "Oh yeah, this thing would just sink into the ground on those talons." Like they,
right.
Yeah, they did all the math and they did the weight, and it's just like, okay,
welcome to 40K.
thank you.
Pretty cool,
But
though.
It's a very cool mod. I've been tempted to get it many times, but
Yeah.
Alas,
what would I do with it?
Yeah,
You should have rules
same thing you do with your Titan.
for like stepping on vehicles, just like piercing damage. Just if you step over top of a Land Raider, it explodes.
It's dead. so,
I don't like that.
yeah.
So it's armed with a variety of ranged and melee weapons, just to destroy everything within its
Yeah.
path. Like this is one of the most dangerous Tyranid creatures.
And I don't think its behavior is particularly described because I think it's fairly obvious what it's designed to do, and
Right.
even what it would do outside of the synapse.
Like this is 100% a lurk creature.
Yes, it's only ever going to try and hide as soon as the synapse is
Yeah.
broken from it. To wait for the next wave of Tyranid assaults. So,
Yeah.
in case you can't tell, that was sarcasm.
Yeah.
No, this is 100% like aggressive behavior. It is seeking out like things that aren't Tyranid and hunting them down.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah, like Synapse would only provide what you were saying, like that target priority. But
Sure.
if Synapse is gone, it's still just blasting.
Yeah. Yeah.
In fact, you would pray that this thing is synapsed so it can make the decision to avoid you.
Yeah, if you're just a
That's
guardsman, yeah.
Please be synapsed and leave.
yeah, go deal with that heavy fortification.
Yeah, leave me alone.
So up next we got the Vicitator.
The Vitiator?
Sure.
I don't know. What we know about this Bio-Titan is that it's very similar to the Hierophant.
Yeah. This is the picture of it, that guy. So it looks a little different. Oh!
Ah!
It looks a
There we
little
go.
different, but
Still a big hulking monster, probably armed to the teeth.
Yeah.
It's from like a card game, I think. That's where...
yeah, there's a couple on here that I've never even heard of.
I think it's tough with NIDS because it's like
You can create
I'll make
anything.
something up, throwaway line from a book 10 years ago, and it's
Yeah.
like this exists, I guess, but
I
nobody.
guess.
There's never been any follow up or
Yeah.
anything with it. So
Yeah. Yeah.
And
So
the thing is, they give themselves so much room with Tyranids that like sure, they
it's
just
cool.
don't use it anymore. I guess. or-
yeah, could have been evolved out of use.
yeah,
So,
there's even models that like in the 80s had models and they just haven't existed since or whatever.
Tyranids probably have like the best reason for that weird like story to life thing. You just say, oh, they don't need those models. They don't need that, you
Yeah.
know, that species anymore. They aren't making it anymore. I think
Yeah.
it's just cool.
Well, it
Oh,
does
yeah.
make
It's a
sense.
cool
Yeah.
excuse.
they're the only one where if somebody actually, like some people like to go buy old nostalgic models and make an army of these shitty old Terminators. And it's
Yeah.
like, why? But Tyranids, 100% behind.
Yeah, you just find like a hive fleet that's like stuck in the past.
Yeah.
And like they haven't evolved at all.
Yeah,
and,
exactly.
Yeah, very cool.
So the next category. So we didn't say biotitans are huge. Like they're the size, they're 50, 100 feet tall type thing.
Who knows how big can they grow them, right?
Like a Hierophant is probably around the 50 feet height scale, maybe a little more. Probably a little
It's as tall
more.
as a knight.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it might be a little
I
bit
think
more.
it's bigger than a knight.
Oh,
Eric's
I've been called out.
furiously typing.
Just because I want.
But
it
either
to
way,
be.
yeah, it's like a knight. It's like a warhound titan.
Big boys.
What are we looking
It's
at?
comparable in size and power to an Imperial Titan.
Okay.
But it says its average height, like in that same Lexicanum article, is 15 meters.
15 meters times 3, that's 45.
45 feet.
Yeah.
Like a warhound. What's a warhound?
Yeah, it's about 50. It'd be 60 feet, those ones.
Yeah, so that's pretty close.
Yeah, a warhound is the smallest time. But either way,
it is
like,
kind of comparable when you look at it. It's just like literally a hunched over little like leech-looking thing with massive cannons.
yeah. And since it is a living creature, they might grow to be 100 feet tall.
Sure,
They
yeah.
might grow
Right.
to be even comparable
You
to
just never
Warlord.
make it that long.
I mean, if
Yeah,
you
maybe.
if you imagine this like for whatever reason, like a massive fortification, it puts one leg over it and the other, and it stretches out to like come over. It's gonna be over 100 feet probably.
I guess,
Sure,
yeah.
Tall,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah. But yeah, so Biotitans, they're huge. Like minimum, they're probably like 50 feet tall minimum, and they could get fucking huge.
Yeah.
Up next, our category is Gargantuan. So this one is kind of 50 feet to, let's say, maybe around 20, somewhere in that range.
Yeah.
So keep that in mind for size when we're talking about this. So the next one we're going to talk about is the Cerebor.
So it's equipped with sacs that you can kind of see, that it loads up with smaller Tyranid creatures. It carries them into battle by protecting them with its hardened shell. And it looks like a train to me. That's always the thing I see. It's just this
It looks
massive
really
Tyranid
cool. I haven't
train
seen this before.
Right?
skittering. This is another one I think that's from a card game.
Whatever.
Yeah.
It's valid.
Oh, it's very cool. Any of these are awesome.
It's all canon.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's literally just a transport.
That would be
that's how
so
it
cool.
functions.
Yeah.
So, like, if this one breaks Synapse, what do we think it's doing? Like, my mind pictures, well, it just shoves as many smaller Tyranids as it can. Like, does it just grab them, put it in its body, and go towards the combat? Like,
No, I think I disagree. I think it would just go towards the combat without even having anything in it. Like the synapse is what would help it load up to peak capacity.
maybe, yeah.
Maybe.
Who's to say?
Maybe it
Yeah,
just-
it doesn't list
Maybe it just poops them all
exactly.
out and just like beelines for the
Yeah.
for
Yeah, and maybe it doesn't
Like
move
cover.
at all, right?
Yeah.
Like
Oh.
maybe
Shuts down.
it doesn't make any decision about what's the right place to take them.
Sure,
to,
sure,
right?
yeah,
Like,
yeah.
Who knows?
Yeah,
but
some
this
of the-
one isn't described.
yeah. Some are, some are not.
Yeah,
Yeah, okay, I could see any of those actually happening.
I like it. I want a model.
they're very cool. Yeah.
Okay, next one.
So the next one we have is the Dactylus.
This one I particularly enjoy the look of. So this creature is designed to
Which
launch
of the pixels are your favorite?
all 500 of them.
Yep.
There's only one picture.
It looks
of that
gross,
exists.
though.
Yeah.
So it's like
So this creature is designed to launch spore mines across vast distances.
with arms, like it lobs them.
Yeah. It's got almost like prairie mantis arms, where it's just like very like.
And they probably just like snap
Yeah,
out.
yeah,
you know?
Fucking
exactly.
weird. Yeah.
It also has the ability to produce its own spores. You can see on its back it grows spores, so it just like reaches and just lobs these spores. And once again, this is like a big creature. We don't know the size because this is all we know about it.
Yeah.
But it's
Oh,
somewhere
right.
in
Yeah,
the
this
range.
is big. Right?
It's a gargantuan. It's what we consider a gargantuan.
Yeah, it's somewhere in
creature.
between 20 to 50 feet.
okay.
Yeah. Very, very big.
I like to
spore
think they're
mines.
all 49.9.
Oh yes, oh yes. Except for one who is 20,
Yes.
but the rest, yeah,
To make the range.
Yeah, we range
make
from
the
20
range.
to 50
That's
feet.
cool.
yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, like this, like most, like if I was to imagine its non-synapse behavior, like it's just literally grabbing spore mines and flinging them, grabbing and flinging, grabbing
Yeah,
and flinging.
exactly.
Just whatever direction it thinks is combat and
Just
aggressive.
to spread. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like this thing isn't lurking in my mind.
Yeah. No. Okay. Up next, we got the Heridan.
Heridan. So this is the largest flying Tyranid that has been encountered to date. It's not, and even though it's not as fast as other aircraft, it's much more maneuverable than
Sure.
like your standard technological aircraft.
Yeah, like the G forces aren't a big issue. It can stop on the dime and kind of just go wherever. Very
Yeah.
maneuverable.
Exactly. So it's described as like really good at dodging enemy fire and craft.
Sure.
So in battle, they offer air support with biocannons, but they also act as like transports for smaller gargoyles, which is another Tyranid species. So it's even called the brood mother because of the gargoyles that would latch onto the bottom. So
Yeah.
that's what like the guardsman term or whatever for it is.
Yeah.
Just it's a brood mother that's raining gargoyles.
It's very cool.
Yeah. Yeah.
But, yeah,
it
like-
looks like a Tyranid dragon, essentially.
It does, yeah.
And I just want to say to anyone who thinks that this thing couldn't move as fast as a plane because it's flapping its wings, you need to shut up because the lore is always right.
Correct.
That's what I want to say.
There you go.
James complains at
Gmail.
gmail.com if you
More than-
disagree with what he's saying over there.
I'm agreeing with the lore.
Doesn't matter.
If you disagree, if you have a complaint about James, send it there.
Paradins are very cool. I agree that this is like the closest thing in 40k to a dragon.
Sure.
So
Like, it's awesome.
an interesting thing about the Harridan, I guess, is that it has no legs or arms. So there's
Oh.
basically two schools of thought about the Harridan. One is that it never lands because it cannot like go along the ground,
Right.
and then the other is that they can slither along the ground like
sneaky
snakes or worms once they do land. So that's but it's not like confirmed one way or
Right.
the other.
I
I
like
think it'd
to
be-
imagine. Sorry, go ahead.
No, you go.
I like to imagine that it like is only producing enough energy to like carry what it needs to into battle, and then just like pump out shots and crash into the battlefield. You know,
I like
It's just
that
a
too.
kamikaze.
right? Like it's
Yeah.
just this huge thing that'll just like die, but like lay waste to whatever it lands on because it doesn't need to land because what it's transporting also fly.
Yeah, the gargoyles.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's pretty cool.
Yeah. Our next creature is the Herodule. And it's an unstoppable armored beast, heavily armed and armored.
It's a good
There are two variants, barbed Herodule for range, and
Smooth.
smooth,
Non-barbed.
non-barbed, and a
Unbarbed.
scythed
Scythed.
Herodule. Words have
Barbed
forsaken
Herodule?
me.
That one's cool. I like it.
Yeah.
It look like that image you have there is terrifying looking.
Man, I love these. These are like the models I always wish were good enough to play on the table.
I know.
I really like that
They're so
straight
cool.
sticking out tail
Yeah.
that it seems to have. It's very velociraptor, very
Well,
predatorial.
Yeah.
I like to imagine that it's like using it to stabilize its cannons or some, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. That's what those tails were for. Was like
Very cool.
stabilization. So.
Very cool.
On
That's-
Velociraptors,
yeah,
they're
that's how they stabilize
cannon
their guns.
Yeah,
stabilized.
they stabilized the
The
Guys,
laser attached
velociraptors
to its
are
head.
terrifying. Have you not seen?
they're very intelligent.
Yeah, Dr.
dinosaurs
Grant
with
told me
freaking
about them.
lasers.
Doctor.
Yeah, Dr. Grant.
My God. The crazy thing about these things, few have ever been captured alive due to the sheer amount of firepower needed to lay it low that the bodies are rarely recovered. So it's so
Jeez.
heavily armored that you have to
Yeah.
blast it with like Titan weapons, but then you shot it with a Titan weapon.
So it disappears. So you can't,
right.
yeah.
Yeah.
one
Yeah,
or
this
the other.
is definitely like an aggressive behavior non-synapse creature.
Yeah.
Like it has no purpose beyond destruction and annihilation.
This is like
Yeah.
a mega Carnifex in some aspects.
Yeah.
Sure, yeah.
Yeah. A lot of these bigger ones that it's very clear what happens when their synapse dies. They just keep fucking
Yeah.
stuff up.
Yeah.
It's hard to get the size because this model could be like this big in my hand, but like when you see the little Space Marine boy
On the
that he's,
base,
like,
yeah.
crushing. Oh, that's a big ass boy.
It's
And the scale is difficult
Damn,
even
boy!
with that because
Damn, boy.
these models are old.
yeah.
And like Carnifexes are pretty similar in size to that almost now, right?
Yeah.
Whereas these could realistically be twice the size, 3 times as a Carnifex.
Yeah. They are like knight equivalencies ones. Like they're 500 points on tabletop and stuff.
Oh wow.
Yeah, don't mess around with a Hierodula.
No. They're
Hierodula.
barbed or scythed.
Yeah.
Okay. That's next.
Malefactor.
The Malefactor, they're incredibly fast, able to carry more Tyranids under its chitin. Once up close, it can use its massive talons to scythe through enemies. Yeah,
This
is
has a model.
Does it?
Yes, it's the same. It was produced at the same time as my Armorcast Exocrine. It's also
Okay.
produced by Armorcast, and yeah, it came out in like early '80s or something.
Really?
Okay.
Yeah, look up Armorcast Malefactor and see if you can find it.
That's you see, both of those images don't look
Oh,
like the same
wow.
thing.
Yeah, it's cool.
I think it's more this part in the back. Like you can see the
Oh,
sense of scale.
I see.
Yeah, that's the Malefactor.
Where this is just like it looks like
That's
a
a
Tyranid
Tyranid
warrior.
That's
yeah.
Warrior.
Yeah, and yeah, that's why I put that one there because then you can just see the scale of how fucking big
Gotcha.
that
Yeah,
thing is.
there's definitely a model
Go pull it up.
for it. If you,
Malefactor.
Armorcast, you'll find
It is intensely ugly.
It's
Probably
crazy.
the worst. Yeah,
It
it's
has
bad.
that
Just that
weird
bitch.
bend in it, you
I don't
know?
get what it is.
Oh,
Yeah. But it just carries things.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
here we go.
Yeah. Yeah, but
Uh-huh.
basically it just has these two
Look at that
massive like
tiny
fucking
picture.
talons on the front, and it almost looked like an armored slug.
Right, it's
but
like
then
looks like a burrowing thing that would like carry.
Yeah, so I guess like the chitin just like lifts up and creatures like go and
here.
hide in there. And then it.
Ooh.
me and my buddy had this theory it was back when Twilight first came out.
Yeah.
There's a certain phase of Google, no matter what you search, you'll get to the Taylor Lautner phase of Google, where it just becomes somehow you'll get a picture of Taylor Lautner in there.
And he will be shirtless.
It's
Well, he better
I don't
be.
know if there's any other pictures of it. but-
Yeah. Is he ever wearing clothes? And not
Doesn't-
in my dreams, so.
Ah,
Not in reality either, I hope.
that's nice. Okay.
All right. Yeah, so I would, again, I don't, like, how does a Malefactor act non-Synapse? Like, it's fast, and it's designed to carry Tyranids.
Yeah.
And then up close, it just uses massive talons. Like,
Yeah.
it seems a very aggressively
Yeah.
built thing.
Yeah, this is another one where we literally have one line
Yeah,
and one
not
picture.
much about it.
But
and one model apparently.
apparently somehow.
But at least there is a model.
yeah,
Yeah.
that's nice.
So the next we have the Nautiloid. So it resembles a massive snail, and it has its mid and rear limbs fused together into a pseudopod and a lash whip combination.
Wow, that's so cool.
I wonder if that's another armored cast model.
I haven't seen this one. This
The-
is super cool though.
I'm pretty sure this is another one from that card game.
yeah.
Because that artwork is very similar.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
like the burned buildings
card
in the
game is
background.
this?
I don't know. It was like it's called like Warhammer CCG or something.
But yeah,
Oh.
you can. I guess you can really tell the scale. Like those buildings are. You can see the building. It's
Yeah.
fucking huge.
It's
Yeah,
really cool.
But yeah, the snail aspect itself, I tried to
Yeah.
like, what does this do? And I honestly think it's just a battering ram.
Sure.
Oh,
but-
that's cool.
Like,
Can you imagine
yeah,
it,
how
like,
fast.
latching onto a door and just like pulling itself into the door.
Yeah, that's kind of how I like
That's
viewed it.
cool.
It just tried to like get rid of everything in its path. So,
Yeah.
but yeah, again, not a lot of information.
Just rolls
about
around on
that.
the battlefield.
I don't think it rolls
How do you know?
because it's a
Slug.
it's a snail.
So
Yeah, exactly. That one. Don't like it, but that one.
Okay, up next we got the Varagon. And it is a huge tunneling creature able to burrow its way through solid rock. And yeah, like
Well, as you
Got
can
a
see from
giant-
the
These are-
pixels
oh.
on that side.
These are so cool.
they are so cool.
I haven't seen a lot of them, but like when you see these older ones,
Yeah.
it's like, well, there's the inspiration for StarCraft, huh? Like, tell
Yeah.
me that's not an Ultralisk.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
It's not an Ultralisk.
No, it's in fact a Viragon.
That's
but
right. There we go.
it's really cool.
Tell
People
me
who
it's
don't see the video think that you remembered the name of it, but I seen you look at your phone the other day. I seen you look.
Yeah, like
lots of details on that one, obviously.
whoa, it burrows through solid rock.
That's what we got. That's what we
Well,
know.
maybe it burrows for like a path for gene stealers to come
That's the
in.
Trigon,
This
but
thing
close.
looks huge.
Maybe they both do it.
Yeah, there's definitely
This one
some.
clears the way for Trigons.
Yeah, is that what that is?
Yes, I guess. This is really big.
Yeah. Yeah. Cool.
Not a lot of information.
No. Up next, we got the Sporocyst.
Ah, the Sporocyst.
That's cool.
So these are
like
bloated, fleshy pods, and they're designed to facilitate planetary consumption. So they're launched from orbiting bioships, and when they make planetfall, they burrow into the surface like a tick. And you definitely see that like tick shape in it. Once embedded, the creature emits clouds of polluting microorganisms, which alter the planet's atmosphere until the air itself is ripe for consumption. So they're literally altering the atmosphere so it can be consumed, during the reclamation period or whatever they call it.
Yeah, it's very cool. They also act as Synapse creature boosters. So they're not Synapse himself, but they do boost it.
Router boosters.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it's cool.
Yeah.
I think
Router
this might
boosters, it's the
also
thing.
win top spot on models that hurt the most to step on.
That's a lot of that's a lot of spikes.
Why
on
don't
the
you
top.
have one of those, Mark?
Yeah, Mark.
What's
It's
your
really
excuse?
bad to build. I used to have like 2 or 3.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, they're
I like the little arms on top, like right there. I like to think.
and then there's also like a corresponding venom cannon that's between each of those arms.
Oh, yeah, you see that
Yeah.
right there on the, 2/3 up.
Yeah, they can take Stranglethorn or venom cannons.
That's very cool. So they obviously have a way to defend themselves. So,
Yeah.
that's a weird one because I would say it's not lurking, it's not hiding because I don't think these things move once they're
no,
embedded.
they're
But they're
deployed.
also they're being aggressive, but they're not actively seeking
You
things
could say
out, right?
lurking, as in they're like closing their shields and protecting themselves and like hunkering down
Sure,
to
but-
like keep themselves
Yeah,
alive.
even then I think it's a perfect description of why the base understanding of lurk or feed doesn't necessarily fit every
everything,
single organism that we have.
for
so.
sure. Yeah, pretty wild.
Whew.
Hey, I missed one. I don't have an image for the Tyrannocyte or the Muriatic spore.
Mycetic spore. Well, it's all right. So this spore is used for space to planet transportation. Think drop pods. It will carry a variety of Tyranids to the surface, and once it unloads its cargo, it will remain on site, unleashing firepower into enemies.
Yeah, the Tyrannocyte is more or less like an adaptation of the spore cyst that
Oh yeah.
is to carry things down to planet side, and then
That's a cool model.
So
too.
the other one has the ability to produce gases to break stuff down,
Yeah.
and this one has
The ability to carry Tyranids.
and actually like move around the battlefield.
Yeah.
This one does not have the synaptic booster.
I imagine those tentacles.
Yeah.
You like that little spiked part on
This
the
is a
tentacle, don't you?
huge
That's
model.
my favorite part.
I love when you see Tyranid models like that. I just picture early 2000s sci-fi movies with massive monsters in the background that are really out of focus and they're
Just because my images are blurry.
they're slowly
a
and
bitch.
ponderously moving, and there's really loud music, and it just spells doom. And
I wish those showed up more. Those things.
On tabletop?
Yeah.
For sure.
They-
Drop pods are so bad in this edition
Yeah.
of every kind. But yeah, these are so cool.
Yeah, they're there's a few things that's man, I wish I saw that more because that's
Oh my god.
that guy.
Wargamer
Who is that?
J. He was
Oh.
from Mini Wargaming
oh.
10 years ago.
So the next thing that we have so that's actually it for gargantuan creatures.
Yeah. So our next category is monstrous, and
Yeah.
monstrous are going to be from 10 to 20, 25, somewhere in that range, depending on
Sure.
the actual monstrous creature.
Still big boys.
Yeah.
Zombie.
So the very first one is one of my favorite models of all time. It's the Carnifex.
Yes.
It's a highly mutatable creature capable of fulfilling a variety of roles or purposes, but are often described as living battering rams.
Yeah. So that's
You didn't put a picture of Huggies on here.
No. None of the old. I'll grab it. I'll fucking grab it. For
yeah,
ya.
but so these are it's also described that they need to pick up speed, but once they have picked up enough speed, they don't stop rampaging.
And cannot be stopped.
Yeah, they
easily.
just never stop destroying as much as possible. So
Carnifexes, it's kind of cool. They've been around since first edition, I believe, and they've had a lot of different variations. So this was their very first one, and then
so cool.
then they had their old one eye kind of style Carnifex. So this one would be what it was.
It gets smaller. I love it.
Enhanced.
Yeah, and then they get to what they are now when they really get the whole chitin bug feel. But yeah, they're so cool.
Are you saying chitin?
yes, he is.
Oh, okay.
I just gave up.
Gotcha.
What is the word?
chitin.
What I say?
No. I'm not playing that game. But Tyranids. So even though they are like living battering rams and impossible to stop once they've started, they're not intelligent by any means. Even like without the constant mental lashing of the hive mind, they succumb to unthinking rampages of destruction. So I think it's just as easy that you'd find a Tyranid rampaging through its own ranks outside the synapse
Yeah.
than fighting the actual enemy.
Sure.
You know, it's only when they're synapse that they're actually pointed and controlled into a direction where they can do proper thing.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
So
I feel like this is the model that makes people want to play Tyranids.
the
Honestly,
Carnifex?
Yeah, look up like I think it's the 5th edition Tyranid Codex. It's such a sick image where you there's like 2 Carnifex and a bunch of Termagants in the background.
Just like the cover picture?
yeah, it's just
Yeah,
it's so like, man, it's a good one.
Yeah. This is one where you definitely see the need for the synapse.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. For it to be fully utilized. But it's good that it has just like that raw aggression because you point it in and then at that point,
it's
going to
leave.
synapse.
Yeah, it's going to leave its synapse at some point because it's a battering ram. But then once it's there, it's causing a rampage, right? So as long as you get it set up, like it's okay that it does leave the synapse.
Yeah.
So do they have any rules for that right now? That
For
they
which?
need to be in synapse? No.
Yeah,
So they
Yeah,
get
like all-
hold on. They take minuses for not being in synapse, but they don't get affected any differently than anyone else not being in synapse.
right. Yeah, on the tabletop right now they have feed and lurk, and your creature will have feed and lurk outside of synapse depending on what it is.
Okay.
And that,
But it's the same as a termagant that's not inside
So
synapse.
it just has to go to the closest.
Yeah,
unit?
so
Yeah.
if it charges something that's not the closest, it's a -2 to the charge roll.
and it's like -1 to hit anything that isn't
Yeah.
the closest
Yeah.
for
Yeah.
shooting stuff.
Yep.
So that's why I really
interesting.
like the target priority aspect
Yeah.
of the hive mind. It makes sense to me that like they're just going to go for the closest threat, and the only way they would ever not do that is when the hive mind is actually directing them beyond it.
Yeah.
So.
yeah.
Or if they have some ulterior purpose, but yes. Like lictors.
Sure, lictors
Sure.
are
Yeah.
very different.
Yeah.
But these
Oh,
are
yeah, no, but
described
these-
as
these, yes.
not
Sorry.
intelligent.
Yeah, I
Right.
thought we were talking just in general.
No, sorry. Yeah, lictors, I agree. They're almost in a ball game of their own.
But yeah,
really.
like these, absolutely 100% just charge the closest thing and just fuck it up.
Yeah, you're not surviving when you're the closest thing. So
No, they can. I've faced your Carnifexes enough time to know I don't like them.
Yeah, Mark really likes Carnifexes.
Oh,
how many in your 1,500 point army?
4 and then old one eye.
4. So, yeah,
5.
5 Carnifexes. Yeah. It's
Yeah,
pretty
like,
cool.
They're one of my favorite models. Like they're just
Yeah.
the iconic Tyranid model in my mind. But
So the next one we're going to talk about is the Dimacaron.
Macaron.
So it appears to have evolved for a single purpose, to slaughter those identified among their prey as leaders in the midst of battle, spreading terror and dismay amongst the ranks of all who resist the hive mind's advance.
yeah,
So
Tall Carnifex.
this one is kind of tougher, though, when you try and talk about what it is to be non-synapsed, because they are obviously designed with a lot more intention in mind.
yeah.
To seek out enemy leaders.
Yeah.
Right? So when they're non-synapsed, do they have the ability to pick out who they consider an enemy leader?
Yeah,
or
yeah,
not?
absolutely.
Like,
They just
yeah.
go after whoever's not wearing a helmet.
yeah, absolutely. Whoever is yelling the loudest on the battlefield and pointing,
Yeah.
probably with a sword,
Yes, yeah.
right? That's
Sure.
who they go after.
Yeah.
It would be much more rudimentary, almost like just it would whoever's displaying like an alpha type of behavior.
Yeah,
Sure.
Yeah, maybe that's
Yeah.
what they can pick up on.
Maybe that's how they do
it.
it. But
Yeah, yeah.
In you can conceivably say that even without the synapse, they can still function to a degree of being able to identify like an alpha target and try to remove it.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
They are described as having huge talons and claws, but for some reason they also have a stomach mouth to, I guess, trap prey. I guess I
Leaders.
don't know. I guess you want to eat
interrogation.
it, but it just kills them and absorbs them.
Yeah, it's
But
a little
Probably
odd.
the most efficient way of killing a single model, I guess.
Is to
having
eat
a
it?
stomach mouth instead
Pierce
of
it
using
with
one of
your
Yeah,
tongue
you
and
just-
bring it into your
Come here, little
acid
guy.
maw.
Yeah. instead of just using one of those fucking massive talons.
Yeah.
It likes to eat things.
A little odd, but hey,
It's cool.
still.
Hey, are you
still
questioning
cool.
the hive mind?
No, I would never hive mind all the way.
That's right.
JamesComplaints@gmail.com.
The next one we have is the harpy. So this is another flying variant of the Tyranids. But what's cool about them is their bodies are hollow, which is different, I think.
okay.
So it does make them like super fragile, obviously, but their agility like surpasses every aircraft they've ever encountered.
Sure.
They're so fast and quick in air because of this hollow body. They can even survive in space.
That's cool.
And are used as like attack craft for hive ships.
Okay.
Oh, cool.
So this is when we were doing our prep for this. I was kind of wondering, like, is like thrust generated in space by flapping wings? Like I was actually wondering, like, what do you need to generate like thrust? Like I was like, do you need gravity? Mark's like, no, you need like air to like move around the wings. So we were like, well, how do you do that in space with wings? Like engines make sense to me. They're actually generating like a thrust in a specific direction. But wings, I always thought was a little odd.
Well, some of the Tyranid like pictures have like this steam exhaust coming from them.
Sure.
So maybe it's some
Like
kinda,
of spaceships?
no, like if there's lots of images of like the Swarm Lord and Hive Tyrant
Yeah, like-
specifically, they have like exhaust coming out of those
Oh,
pipes on the
okay.
top
Yeah,
of
if
them.
we go back to like Carnifex, it's like all of these things here are like
Those are like
heat vents, exhaust
Oh,
ports, or
okay.
whatever.
right. So
Just-
instead of like sweating or excreting waste, like they just exhaust.
Yeah, so it's
Yeah,
very
energy,
possible
that
they
it could
have
be like a thruster type of
different
thing.
system of thrust to function
Yeah.
while they're in space.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, very possible.
Yeah.
That's curious. I never had considered that, but
Yeah. Like their big ships like produce like
combustible gas. Yeah.
to use.
Right.
And that
But
makes
that-
sense to me. I get
yeah,
that. It
but
was
this
this one
one's very-
specifically that
yeah.
I was interested about.
Yeah.
Yeah, their undersides are also like covered in cysts. They just contain spores that they just rain down on the enemies as they fly by and stuff.
That's nice.
Nice
yeah.
thing is I do see this one on tables.
So cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's not suck. It doesn't suck, so you can use
Sure.
it, which is
Yep.
nice.
Any ones that do suck, you've just never seen the models. Yeah. They are, and so their behavior is definitely opportunistic. They avoid prolonged conflicts and contact with any kind of enemy forces.
Yeah.
So they prefer strafing runs and swooping dives. And I definitely think that's what you would see outside of Synapse. You
Sure.
definitely would see them like just swooping and diving and
Taking the least risk possible.
yeah. Whereas
Yeah.
you, Mark, earlier you described how in the Hive Mind you could see the Hive Mind directing them to like completely bog down an enemy turret and cover it in bodies so it
Right.
couldn't fire anymore.
Yeah.
But that's definitely an abnormal behavior
Yeah.
for them. So I like that. It's trying to think. I like trying to think of how do they act with the Hive Mind and how do they normally act without it. So,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, it's cool.
Yeah.
Definitely opportunistic. A little more lurk than we've been seeing.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, waiting for the right moment.
Yeah. So up next we got the Hive Crone, a large flying creature that specializes in air-to-air combat. It's perfect for trapping flyers in their tentacles and wrestling them to the ground. So it's just got a bunch of like little tentacles on it and stuff that will latch onto ships and then it'll pull itself in and just rip off a wing or whatever. But the one really cool thing is they have a long spiked tail capable of punching holes in ships. There is one of these that fought in a battle and the Imperial Guard named it like the Crimson Hunter, something like that. But basically it had like 12 confirmed Valkyrie kills, which is like a type of
Yeah.
aircraft or whatever. And yeah, it was like every time it would just use its tail to pierce right through the cockpit, like glass.
Killing the pilot.
Just
killing the
killing the
pilot. Just
pilot.
killing the pilot. Didn't do any
That's
damage
crazy.
to
Wow.
anything else.
That's cool.
So yeah, it uses that to like damage ship, pokes holes in it, but it can also like drag that tail across a wing, like just fly over top of it, drag it across the wing, and just sever the wing.
It also spews bile from its
Yep, yeah,
gullet onto things.
yeah.
Thank
that's always
God.
fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, it wasn't tough enough yet. We need
Yeah.
we need the vomit.
It kind of makes me think of Ridley, actually, just in the tail for
Yes.
some reason.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
Yeah, these are cool. They used to be insanely good when vector striking was a thing.
Hmm.
Fun. Okay.
Moloch.
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 Marriage. Is that what you're doing?
Nice.
Got it.
You got it.
Okay.
So these are burrowing creatures that travel deep underground to bypass enemy defenses and then emerge behind enemy lines, run rampant through supply lines, command posts, artillery batteries, really anything.
Yeah.
And then they just vanish back underground to just evade retaliation. So
Yeah.
it's like a really great shock troop.
Yeah. And once again, to keep in mind, we got a picture up here, but the size of this thing.
Yeah, these are
It's
monstrous
fucking
creatures. Like
Yeah,
they're
so,
huge.
Yeah.
Very tall.
Yeah. So, and apparently the only warning you ever get is just like a tremor. And
Yeah.
you're like, well,
Rumbling.
is this an earthquake or is this a Moloch
And then
about
you're
to
dead.
burst
Yeah.
underneath me? Yeah.
They have extremely delicate sensory organs that allows them to detect the beating of a heart through solid stone. They don't give a range, but
Sure.
it's long enough that they know where to go underground and know exactly where to pop up.
Where life is. Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
the perfect place to strike.
Some would say.
At least the closest place. But yeah, like, so my question is, like, and they don't explain this, so it's an open-ended question, like, if they sense a heartbeat in one direction and a heartbeat in the other, like, how do they choose a target? Do they
Yeah.
go to the highest density of heartbeats?
Yeah.
Do they go to what they think might be the easiest to get to? So there's a lot that isn't really explained in non-synapse behavior, but you can guess that if this is underground, you're probably not safe. Right? Like, because as soon as it goes for the one, it's probably just going to go for the next one as soon as it's done, right?
Or maybe this just hides underground until it receives orders.
I don't know about that. Like, I don't know how long the synapse range really is, but if it's making forays into the ground, it's probably losing synapse range very quickly. So it's probably going to be as aggressive as possible to pop back up. That's my guess.
Could be.
Like, I don't know how far synapse range is, but if it's trying to hit a target 3 kilometers away, I'm pretty sure at that point it's out of synapse range already. So it would have to be a little more aggressive to continue doing what it's designed to do.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
but it's not stated. I don't know.
Yeah.
That's just my perception of it.
I think the
guess.
really big thing with Synapse for this one would be, sure, it can detect heartbeats, sure, it can detect the amount, but with the Synapse, like, everything is in constant communication, so it would literally, like, not literally, but it would be able to actually see the battle on the top of the surface.
as long as it was within synapse
Exactly.
range,
So
right?
it actually once again, target priority.
Yes.
But, like,
It is, yeah, and I agree with you there.
Yeah.
But chances are good it's going to leave synapse at some point.
Yeah.
So it has
And
to
then
be
it'd
able
be-
to function on its own, and I think it would be quite aggressive.
I would say so too.
Yeah. Get out, Ian. You're wrong.
You know what? I'll take that.
The Toxicrene. So,
Oof.
This thing is so weird.
yeah.
The model is pretty cool though.
Yeah. A mobile toxic spore-producing organism capable of creating choking clouds of spores that blast out from its dorsal chimneys. Each cloud is composed of millions of tiny spore organisms that possess predatory sentience, deliberately forcing themselves into the respiratory systems of other Tyranid or of non-Tyranid organisms.
Very cool.
So it's got spores that
Are sentient.
Sentient choking cloud.
and have an ability to go in a direction that they want.
Yeah.
Yep.
And then when you look at like the actual
Don't like
creature
that.
itself,
Sentient biochemical warfare.
it's a huge creature and it's just got a bunch of like tentacles on its mouth for like it's an incredibly toxic creature. So all those are just lined with toxic.
He's just
and-
typing in Discord, just flaming everybody.
Your mama.
Keyboard warrior. Yeah.
Oh my god. Yeah. They're pretty cool.
Yeah, we have to ban him.
God damn.
Yeah.
Toxicrene.
So I guess I don't know. What do you think? Does that, if it's outside of synapse, does it constantly just release spores?
Yeah, I think it'd be in lurk. Like, I don't think this is charging enemy lines. I think that would be non-standard behavior because I think this is just as deadly with the spores producing them and just releasing them, hiding and just releasing spores.
And those spores don't hurt Tyranids at all. So
Yeah.
it can literally just continue to release spores wherever it is
Yeah.
and cause damage because those spores are just going to travel.
So I would say this would definitely be more lurk.
Yeah, I think I'd be it's much less aggressive in its seeking out of
Yeah.
prey for sure.
Yeah, but if anything gets close to it, it will
Of
fuck
course,
them up.
yeah.
Yeah.
Especially because that large bit, like it's more than happy to handle something that's big sized.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Do one of you guys want to read number 7, Trigon.
Sure, I'll talk about the Trigon.
All right.
So the Trigon is a monstrously serpentine creature which tunnels below enemy forces in order to breach their lines in unexpected places. The tunnels that they place are coated in a glass-like silicate substance, strengthening the tunnel behind them.
Yeah.
So
So much like the Malwalk, the Malwalk is more like an individual predator. With this one, will dig tunnels for other creatures.
yes, 4 Tyranid troops to
Yeah.
go through, and that's this glass-like silicate substance. It even strengthens the tunnels, so there's very little chance of
Cave-ins,
collapse.
sure. Yeah.
But apparently it does this by releasing like electric charges that is built up between its chitin plates.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. This
so
one has.
it has like just normal electrical attacks, but
Yeah.
like they think that's why it
It's
it
able
does
to-
that.
Sure.
That glass, like it's just
Sure.
fusing the ground or whatever. So
Sure.
it's kind of cool to think it's
Super
just
cool.
electrical discharges or melting the
yeah.
tunnels
As
that
it
it's going
digs.
through. Yeah.
Yeah.
And just after a Tyranid battle, you can just find these massive tunnels going underground and popping up. And
It's cool.
Yeah.
yeah, no, it's very cool.
They have a sorry what?
I was gonna say the same thing. It's just that they have an adaptation that actually gives them Synapse, the Trigon,
And then it becomes a prime.
the Trigon Prime.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then I think they can actually also the Trigon Prime has the ability to like fire that electrostatic pulse.
Yeah, I think
at
that's a
more of
biomorph. I don't know if
I
all
think-
of them.
No,
get
the
it.
primes have them
prime.
specifically, I believe.
Yeah.
That just shows you like they're two of the exact same creature,
Yeah.
but one has like that synapse adaptation or biomorph added to it, and it becomes a completely different
Yeah, it would change
creature
how that works.
altogether.
That's
right?
to deliver forces to the backline and then also provide them with Synapse, and maybe that's
Absolutely,
deployed with
yeah.
Molochs or something so that they never.
Yeah,
Yeah,
like who
sure.
knows? Like I think like Synapse is really important, so they're going to be doing their best to keep Synapse as much as possible on
Yeah,
the battle.
yeah,
So
yeah.
I definitely can see that.
Yeah. Very cool. Very cool model.
You got the horror specs?
All horror specs it. This creature was designed to consume biomass at a rapid rate. Its body consists of a massive maw covered in grabby tentacles and tongues that
Grabby
pull
tentacles.
Yes, grabby tentacles that pull the unfortunate into its digestive stomach. However, it is usually deployed in late stage planet digestion.
Yeah.
They seem to have a lot of creatures that are deployed during late stage that are designed to consume biomass.
Yeah.
So
It's interesting.
it is interesting that they felt the need for multiple species to be created for the task of consuming biomass.
Sure.
Yeah, they're still like, all right, there's still some resistance on this, or so we need to make sure there's some Haru specs down there with the rippers and stuff.
I mean, look
so.
at him. He looks like he would be pretty good at eating stuff.
Yeah. Or even just like so they've been prolonged in this war. They're losing biomass. Rippers aren't good enough to go collect biomass.
Yeah, because they're too fragile.
they're too fragile. So they
Right.
have this one that is big and hulking and survive just small arms fire to go collect
Yeah.
biomass so they can keep producing. And,
I never thought about that. Yeah, it's
So
maybe
when-
it's during a
Yeah.
combat.
Yeah, so the way I read late stage, it wasn't necessarily like stage 47 of
Of a
taking
planet
over.
being destroyed.
It was like more late in the battle, like
Prolonged contact.
Yeah,
of-
yeah.
Sure. Interesting. Yeah, no, I like that one a lot actually, because
Yeah.
they definitely will need to consume biomass to sustain themselves.
Yeah,
So
and rippers sometimes won't do the trick if it's still a very heavy battlefield.
absolutely.
So, yeah. Up next, we got the sweet Exocrine. I'm gonna look at a picture here, but
All right,
I
so
should have brought it.
yeah,
it is nothing more than a living artillery platform. This creature's brain is so tiny that it struggles to walk and fire its massive back biocannon accurately. But when it remains still, its brain goes into overdrive, allowing the creature to be a much, much deadlier shot.
Yeah.
So it really can only do one or two things at a time.
yeah.
Either move front leg and then move the next
Yeah.
leg,
Yeah.
or fire gun.
Yeah.
You know?
Pea brain.
Yeah.
Yeah. So they used to have like an that's not it.
That's the other one. There we go. That's the one that you have, right?
Yeah, I should have brought it.
Yeah.
That's pretty wild.
That's hilarious.
It looks like like a what are they called? Triceratops, but then
With a gun coming
with
out
a
of the...
gun on it. Triceratops,
Yeah.
a slug, and a cannon had a love child. It's the Exocrine.
But the newer version's pretty cool too. Just fuck, that's a great model.
Yeah, that's cool.
So what do
It
you
is-
think
It is quite excellent.
when that's not synapsed? What do you think?
I think it stops moving entirely.
I think,
and
yeah.
just blasts.
Yeah.
As
Sure,
well.
anything it feels that comes into range.
Yeah.
You think it differentiates between Tyranids and non-Tyranids?
I don't think it could.
Its brain is pretty tiny.
If it
described
can't
as
move and shoot at the same time, I feel like target identification would be a challenge.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe it just lurks then. Just waits.
Yeah, maybe it shuts down completely until it's back into Synapse and it has someone help it with that kind of stuff. Maybe they view it's too dangerous to be able to active on its own, so they say, okay, you shut down completely. So
Just conserve energy.
yeah.
It's
I
got
think
big muscles on it, though.
Funny
yeah,
to
they are
watch
very
this thing
muscly.
just crawling away.
He's just like moseying around, like, oh.
Yeah. No, it's Eeyore. It's the Eeyore of the Tyranids. Nobody likes me. I guess I'll go shoot over here. All right. Next, we have the Tyrannofex.
Yeah, the Tyrannofex are large battle fortresses that are designed to be able to handle the largest of its foes, like a battle tank, delivering blows with devastating weaponry. In case a Tyrannofex is ever assaulted up close, it can emit pheromones to help attract allies to come and assist it.
That's very cool.
I didn't know that. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, apparently, like it has like really good short-ranged weapons, like guns. But apparently, once it gets close, I guess it struggles to really defend itself. So it attracts other Tyranids to protect it using pheromones. I like that. It's almost like a mobile version of a Hive Mind. It's like a come help me, for some reason that pheromone overrides other Tyranids close to it and causes them to come help and fight off whatever is around it. So I
cool.
kind of like that. Yeah.
I wish that
I
had
wish we saw a
rules.
little more of that.
Yeah, that doesn't have
too.
rules specifically for
Yeah.
that part of the...
Fucking GW.
Yeah, it's cool, though.
Come up with cool stuff and don't even use it.
These have a bunch of interesting like biomorph options that are specific to the Tyrannofex as well. Like, the one pictured here is the rupture cannon, which just like sends like a massive spine through. It can pierce like a land raider or whatever,
Yeah.
But then they also have like a bile sprayer that's connected to like its stomach
Acids, yeah.
acid, and it like
Okay,
concentrates
yeah,
it and
yeah.
just like throws bile onto enemies. And then it also has like an option with its like sixth legs turn into these massive like hives, and flesh borers, like those beetles that like
yeah.
dig into your skin, will
Yeah.
just like get pushed out of its legs and just like fly into everything around it.
That's so crazy. Yeah.
It's not a good time. Yeah. We have the muciloid spore.
Mucolids.
Yeah. These large spores operate in large groups. They move quickly in the air and explode once they're close to on enemy targets. Sure.
They're just big floating landmines.
Yeah, essentially.
If you've ever seen
Oh.
I like the tubes coming out of them. They look disgusting.
I knew there was something wrong with our notes.
What?
because you mentioned mucilid spores above
We mentioned mucilid spores here,
with
but
the tyrannocyte.
we also mentioned it in medium. And I was like, I swear I wrote mucilid spore, but I don't remember writing that. It's because I wrote the other one.
If you've ever seen Finding Nemo, there's the scene where there's those like floating bombs in the ocean.
Mines?
Yeah, they're like, I imagine that. Fuck you. This is the alien version of that.
Yeah. But what's cool is I think they're described as even moving like quickly.
Yeah.
So these are like fast moving
Yeah.
spines
Yeah.
or spores, sorry, that go towards the enemy and then explode with like very lethal.
Maybe more
force.
sentient than their smaller brothers, the spore mines, which are
yeah.
just like floating,
Waiting
nothing.
for something.
They just like hope that something will walk into
Yeah,
them as well.
exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, up next we got the biovore. The biovore are sluggish, bloated creatures who
Speak of the
only
devil.
me sluggish,
Spore mine.
bloated. Oh, where whose only task is to grow and launch spore mines toward the enemy. It does have one ability, or it does have the ability to grow spore mines inside of its belly.
Well, thank God. Now it
For its
never
own
runs
supply.
out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And James, if you could read this line, please.
Oh god. The spores are fired by creatures' powerful muscle spasms.
Interesting. Huh.
Oh, thank you, James.
I
for
seizured.
that.
Oh, there, it flung it like 12 kilometers.
That's how muscles work.
Yeah, it's
I'm glad you're on board now.
you know what? The lore is always right. So, if you have a mantis shrimp, you got a muscle spasm in this guy's stomach. Yeah, all is rational and true in the lore.
Rational and true. Ooh. Yeah, they're cool. They're just
come around.
tiny little. Oh, so we went into the medium category just now. This is the first medium-sized creature. So
Yeah.
this is probably 5 to 10 feet, roughly. These creatures we're going to talk about.
He's a hefty boy still. He's chonky.
Oh, he's chonky.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thick.
Yeah.
Damn, boy.
So the next one we have are hive guards. So they are exclusively territorial and have limited mental capacity, and they're content to stay perfectly motionless and even defend a structure.
Yeah.
So they're mildly telepathic. Is there a slide for the hive guard?
Beauty.
So they're mildly telepathic and allows them to see through the eyes of all of the Tyranid organisms, and effectively allows them to shoot at targets without seeing it by using an unconscious wealth of incoming tactical and targeting information. So it makes sense.
So cool.
Yeah, like if Mark can see something, I can see what Mark is seeing. So even though I can't see it, I can shoot it.
Yeah.
So it's very cool because they effectively get like a 3-dimensional go anywhere view of the battlefield.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think their spikes that they shoot out can actually direct themselves to some degree. So it's like they can actually shoot
They're
around core.
heat seeking.
Okay.
Yeah.
Air
Yeah.
quotes.
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
So this reading how their behavior works, they're definitely much more like defend.
Yeah.
They're not aggressively going out, but if you come in the range of what they're defending, they will destroy you very aggressively.
Yeah, yeah.
It's
they
a
got
very
this
interesting
50 range
combination.
bubble.
Yeah.
And as long as you're not in it, they're not going to bother with
Exactly.
you. But as soon as you enter into it, they will hunt you down.
Yeah, that's exactly what
Yeah.
it sounds like they would do
Yeah.
without the synapse. And then, yeah.
Makes sense. Hive guard.
My
Is in the
God.
guard.
Go.
I didn't even think about
That's
that.
it.
It's all coming together, boys.
Ooh.
All right, so this is going to our next thing that we're talking about are lictors, and I'm pretty sure we've said it a couple times how these are different. So these lictors are creatures that act as specialist scouts and vanguards. They rove ahead of the Tyranid swarm to seek out, locate potential prey. They're masters of stealth and can move swiftly through even the densest terrain without any sound.
Yeah.
They are covered in a chameleonic skin that changes color to blend in perfectly with their background. It renders them all but invisible to the naked eye. Like they have so much going for them.
As an
really.
individual.
Yes, as an
organism.
individual
Yeah.
species of the
Yeah.
Tyranid.
Yeah, they're one of the most deadly, like, for pound to pound.
So they exude a pheromone trail as they locate and hunt their prey, which draws other Tyranids like to that.
Yeah.
So a larger concentration of prey stimulates a stronger pheromone response, so then would bring a larger group of Tyranids to
Yeah.
it. So it's like directly proportional. Hey, it's this strength of spray, so we need this strength of Tyranids after,
Yeah.
right? So they often work without the Hive Mind, just because of their role as scouts
Yeah.
and vanguard units. So they're highly intelligent creatures, capable of many different and varying feats.
Yeah.
They definitely have the ability for like target priority on their own.
Yeah, if they approach a fortress, they know which one's actually the sentry.
Yes,
And to take that one out
Exactly.
It's
first.
very
yeah, or
interesting
like-
because intelligence isn't something that you typically will associate with a non-synapse creature.
Yeah. And that's what I think, because people would hear this, oh, it's not a synapse creature, it must go into an animalistic tendency when it leaves the hive mind, because the people blanket statement all non-synapse creatures like that.
Yeah.
And this very much shows you that that's wrong.
Yeah.
And that each creature is very different and unique. And so like lictors effectively don't need the hive mind to do what they're designed to do. And
Yeah.
if what's the benefit of them like being attached to the hive mind? They're already intelligent enough to do everything they need to do without it. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, the only beneficial thing is then the hive mind can basically force it to kill itself.
Sure. Yeah.
You know, like
Right.
Or make
go
it
be a
pick-
distraction over here so we can swarm over
Or
here.
at
like-
least can relay that information or something.
Absolutely, yeah. Obviously,
Or
there's
that'd
still
be,
benefits
yeah, yeah.
to being linked to the hive mind, but it is not. I would not consider it a less deadly thing at all
no.
if it leaves the hive mind.
No.
Whereas most of these, their behaviors definitely change when it leaves the hive mind. But this thing,
Yeah, like they're smart enough to even set up like their own traps and ambushes and stuff, and like,
Wait.
there's
hunt prey and stalk prey.
yeah, like there's stories of them like dragging bodies and like making it look like something's happened over here, so people will go over there and like actually setting up ambushes and not just like
Yeah.
hiding behind a rock and
Right.
like
Yeah.
actually setting something up.
like traps,
Yeah.
like using our own intelligence against us.
Exactly,
That's
yeah.
like a huge,
Yeah.
like that's a big difference in a lictor.
If ever there was a model that didn't match the images, like that thing looks
Yeah.
terrifying. That thing looks
yeah,
a little
like,
less
this
so.
creature
they're
up
cool.
here looks fucking dangerous.
Yeah. I want lictors to like get some revamp in the new edition or something. They used to be super, super effective, and they're just like a non-factor in the current game.
Yeah, they very much sound to me like an assassin type role.
Yeah.
And I would very much like to see some ability where like a lictor can just appear at different portions of the battlefield and,
Well, but then
they can
also,
target things that others can't target and
they are super individual like that and act on their own, but then they also have this pheromone trail, which is like leading the swarm to an attack point at the
Yeah.
same time. So yeah, they're super interesting.
And even when they die, they're known to like release like a super burst or whatever
Right.
too. So
Like,
like even if you
something
kill
bad
it on
happened.
time, you still fuck the Tyranids are coming.
yeah, because now it's just like a massive beacon
Yeah.
for them.
Like,
Yeah,
if something
very
was good
cool.
enough to kill a lictor, there's
Yeah.
there's something over there. So
Yeah, worth going to.
yeah.
interesting.
Yes, it is. Okay.
All right, now we are on the meiotic spores. So these are large sacs full of bioacid and toxins and contain smaller spore mines within them. They will explode if any of their sensory inputs are tripped.
That's fun.
Yeah, they seem pretty mindless.
Yep. Yeah, I would say they're incredibly mindless.
Yeah, I feel like the hive mind can like override their sensory trip and just trip them whenever it needs to,
Yeah.
or like trick them into thinking that it's time to explode or something.
Trick
but
them into it.
I don't know, like the hive mind trips their sensory
Yeah,
stuff.
yeah, yeah.
So,
Trick
but
is just a funny word. Like,
sure.
Yeah.
Ha! Got you.
Exactly.
On my team. Yeah.
but yeah,
But I definitely see them like this is very much a passive. They're just waiting.
yeah, blowing around with the wind.
Yeah, waiting for something to trip them, and then boom. So.
Yeah.
Boom.
Okay. Is this the third time
Yes.
we've done
No.
the muciloids?
No, the mucilid. This is the one I wrote.
Oh.
It's okay. Next is the Ravener. Raveners are kind of like similar to a Trigon. They're a serpentine creature, adapted for fast assaults, surprise raids, and swift pursuits. They're capable of burrowing through the ground for long distances. They have highly sensitive auditory and visual senses that can detect a broad range of vibrations and energy bands, allowing them to hear small tremors on a planet's surface and also giving them the unique ability to see energy forms emitted by Vox transmissions, sensor stealth technology, and even teleport homers.
Yeah. Pretty wild. It's weird that some of these creatures like change the way they track. Like they're both burrowing creatures.
But they like cover whole breadth of tactics
Yeah, like-
by doing that.
Yeah.
Like, do you not have a heartbeat for some reason? Like,
Right.
we'll send this one, right?
Well, because like Mechanicum or something.
Yeah,
Tank-
absolutely.
yeah.
Yeah. Do you not give off any heat because you're like a perfectly adapted to survive in a cold environment? Like, let's send
There's a
in
nid
different
for
type.
that.
Yeah, exactly.
There's always a nid for that.
That's what's I really like about the Tyranid race is just that they've evolved to develop something for everything.
Yeah.
So.
Cool. Pyrovore. Pyrovore's body is a complex array of bladders, stomachs, driven by the instinctive need to feed with a deadly maw dripping with corrosive acids strong enough to break down flesh, bone, and armor into smoldering mucus. Smoldering
nice.
mucus.
Yes, sir.
All right. They are often found on the battlefields, feasting on the dead and wounded, and can even devour metals and rocks, pre-digesting the biomass for the hive fleet's eventual absorption.
So shape-wise, very similar to exocrines.
It's like a mini exocrine. The same kit that a Biovore, or it once was, I think.
Yeah.
They're like
Sure,
pretty
yeah.
much the same.
But it's that mass. It's a big gun on its back and
Yeah.
just a big beast.
Yeah, but its purpose is definitely different.
Very
Like,
different,
It goes around and just digests things and then shoots acid at things
Just
to
throwing
digest.
up on people.
Yeah. It's nice.
Just getting everything ready.
Yeah.
It's just
for
like
dinner.
pre-eating.
He's
I don't-
he's
Mama
baby
heard
birding
me.
the hive.
We all do it. I know I spit on my food before I eat it. I've
Thank
seen
you for
Eric
this
do
dinner.
it. Yeah, you were just breaking it down a little bit.
Hive Guard, or nope, Tyrant Guard.
Ooh,
So
Tyrant
as-
Guard.
A species of Tyranid spawn for the sole purpose of defending a hive tyrant from harm, covered in thick chitin plates.
The glow up from old edition to new edition is strong with these ones as well.
What's old and what's new? Wait, let me guess. Let me
yeah.
guess. That is new, and that is old.
Yeah.
Huh?
You're right.
Ooh, that's close. The swords in the hands almost got me. Because the claws, I think, is way more common.
Way more buggy.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
much like it's exactly what you'd find on a Carnifex.
True.
But the armor plates on that one just look so much more detailed.
Yeah.
So I picked that one. Yeah.
Tyrant Guards are amongst the dimmest of Tyranid creatures, on par with many of the smaller Gaunt's genus, creatures of intellect. This seems to be a deliberate evolution of the hive mind in creating a lumbering, heavily defended, and utterly loyal bodyguard with no sense of personal safety, only the continued survival of its master, often blocking attacks with their body. They are little more than living shields. Yeah, they're just covered in chitin, and they just get in the way of...
Yep, they're like just a walking shield
Yeah.
for the big boy.
Yeah. So obviously, a hive tyrant is a
Yeah.
synapse creature.
Yeah.
So most likely they're always going to be around it.
Yeah.
So what do you think happens if that hive tyrant dies?
So we actually know for these ones. Should their synapse... I don't know if you were setting that up intentionally. He was. Okay. Should the synapse handler be killed, they go berserk, Eric. You bitch. Brutally stampeded down the marauders to prevent the knowledge... This is cool. To prevent the knowledge of how to kill a hive tyrant from being passed on.
That's
Oh.
awesome.
Yeah.
That's
Period.
so cool.
Yeah.
That's sick, yeah.
How dare you?
And they just
will not pass
Is that what Tyranids sound like to you?
sure.
I always pick. How
When I connect to the hive mind,
You son of a... I'm gonna get you and prevent the knowledge of ever being passed on. Oh boy.
oh boy. Yeah, no, that's very cool.
Yeah.
I like they look very lumbering. Yeah,
Which one?
the lithe spidery looking one. No, the Tyrant Guard.
Yeah.
Man, like I was
Very
talking to
cool.
Mark earlier about how a Tyranid army to me is like a collector's army. Like
Yes.
it's the army that I want everything of, and I want just a massive hive fleet. Like this in the same way that I treat Necron.
Such a huge
Like-
model range too.
Yeah,
That's
I
a
don't
lot.
like if I were to
Really
collect
big.
Tau, I don't want to collect every single thing. I want to build a very specific theme for
Sure.
like my Sept world or whatever. But this, like Tyranids, just everything is so good and everything is so unique and everything functions so particularly that it feels like an injustice to not
An injustice.
to not
Own
collect
one of
everything.
everything.
Yeah,
I get
like
that.
you have to have your hive tyrant, but you have to have your Tyrant Guard around it.
Yeah.
Right? You have to have your Trigon Prime with your Trigons, and you need your Gaunts that are going to be running through with them, and I love
And like no matter what your lore is, you can basically fit in that you would have one of everything, so you can
Of course, yeah,
manage every situation. Right?
as long as you are a functioning hive fleet with a dominatrix and a Norn Queen, right? Like you can effectively say I have every single
Yep.
thing.
Available to you.
Exactly, yeah, and no one can be like, "Oh, you don't have permission from the Inquisition to use that weapon."
That doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
Wow. Is that how you...
I don't know why you talk like that. You're that guy.
This
That's
is
what
why
you
I
sound like,
This is why I
James.
played Tyranids for so long.
You didn't have to care about the lore.
That's right.
That's not what it is.
No, that is
Oh,
what it is.
shit.
Venomthropes. Venomthropes are dripping with poisons that float across the battlefield via gas-filled bladders while emitting a lethal gas.
Me too.
That will ultimately kill a world's indigenous life and ruin its soil and atmosphere beyond habitable levels until the world is only fit for consumption by the Hive fleet.
My God.
That's nice.
Just airing a room out on a planetary scale.
Yeah.
Whew.
So the poisonous haze that is created by the venomthropes is equally dangerous for the living as it is just for like the surrounding planet life. Even the most conventional power like armors provide no lasting protection from being turned into a sludge of biomass. So it's eating away. Even space marines in their power armor with their environmentally sealed suits will eventually be killed by this.
Yeah. I think these guys are definitely more lurk.
Yeah. They are.
Oh yeah, they're
Absolutely.
more just concerned with spreading their poison everywhere, avoiding people. Yeah,
because there's
avoiding
no
conflict.
need for it to be.
Exactly. They're going to win in the end.
And
so.
interestingly enough, too, like these guys, the Tyranids are not affected by this cloud, obviously, and they actually use it to hide. Like they use it as like a camouflage system
of course,
as well.
Yeah, or even if like they're being chased, they would run into this cloud to make it so their attackers can't.
What are you
get
gonna do?
to them.
Pursue
Yeah,
me? You know?
Exactly. Come and die if you want.
Yeah.
Very, very cool.
So we're moving into the small creature category. So this is basically, 1 to 5 feet.
Wow, the pixels are
The pixels
As the
are
creatures
real.
get smaller, the pixels get
Sure.
bigger.
perfect.
Enhance.
Eyeball.
Oh, that's a head.
He's getting poked out.
Oh dear.
You just got to
yeah.
take a step back
Yeah, it
for a
doesn't help
minute
with some of
and,
the
and just
shine.
take a look at it.
No, I just thought that was like rocks or something.
Now it makes sense. Oh.
Pixels look good from over there.
Maybe
Great for
maybe the
imagery.
viewers can also actually interpret the image.
Kind of,
Probably not.
But either way, for $2, you can go find out. Oh my God, get over here. Cortex Leech is the first one we're going to talk about, and it's a small Tyranid creature with long feelers coming out of their body.
Feelers.
Feelers. They leap-
Feelings.
Can you feel that, Mr. Krabs?
It's emotional. That's the damage these guys
Oh,
cause.
no.
It's all emotional.
They hop on your face and whisper in your ear.
She
Your
never
mo-
loved you.
Your mother slept with another man.
You're the son of the milkman. You've never known your father.
Oh, no.
My feelings.
It's all psychological.
So they leap onto the heads and faces of their victims and insert these feelers into their eyes, noses, and ears.
I don't like that.
So their feelers
What?
then travel to the brain where they begin to control the host and they create a puppet for the hive mind. So as long as these things are in synapse range to be synapsed, the creature that they're feelering
Yeah.
is now a puppet for the hive mind and they can control it.
I would love models for this.
Let's get
that'd
rules. That would
that'd
be
Like
so
guardsmen,
cool,
like
right?
guardsmen with these things covering their faces.
No. Like these, if you get them up close, they'll take over something.
That
of
would
the
be
enemy.
awesome.
So it's not an actual, you're putting down guardsmen. Like,
But that would also be cool.
Even if it was like
In the same way that we did the mind scarabs for Necron.
oh, sure.
You would do that with this.
I see
put
what
these
you're
on
saying.
Tau, put these
Yes.
on everything.
I see what you're saying.
Yeah.
Yeah. That'd be a cool conversion army.
Thank
Yes,
you.
yes.
Yeah,
it'd be
I
really
get it.
cool. Oh yeah,
But
that
for
would be
ta-
so sick.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because then, you got Tau with these little things on them.
Yeah, and they're
I'd
fighting
show
together.
up to a tournament. I play Tyranids. It's
Put
just
down.
riptides with these things all over.
Here's my Tyranid army. Opens.
Oh my
up.
god, that's perfect. I played Nids and Tau, so I should definitely do this
Yeah,
conversion.
this would be awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
Eyeballs poked out of all of my breachers.
How do they see?
The hive mind.
Yeah, the hive mind.
Oh,
Yeah.
that actually works.
Right. It always
That
works.
the lore always is
Right.
rational and right.
It's true and rational.
They are dim-witted, but make up for this by their large numbers in a brood. Prefer to over. Oh, sorry.
That's
They're feelers. We've done that one.
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. No, we're on Gaunts now.
Okay, Gons.
Good old Gaunts.
Gaunts ghosts. Gaunts are one of the most variable species of Tyranids. Some are born with ranged weapons, other melee, and some even have wings. A
Yeah.
great biomorph. To fly across battlefields.
Great.
Are those really Gaunts?
Well, they're gargoyles, but
Yeah.
that's an adaptation
Oh,
from gaunts,
okay.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah, Eric. Do you know your own stuff? God.
Don't you even 40k, bro?
Yeah.
They're dim-witted, but they make up for
Wings.
this by large numbers in a brood. They prefer to overwhelm enemies with a chittering mass of bodies.
Yeah, they just swarm you.
Yeah, this
But-
is like termagants have like the guns they have. They even that has like 4 or 5 different variations of the guns that they'll be spawned with. Hormigants
Yeah.
are the little melee scything guys, and then gargoyles. They're all the same gaunt kind of adaptations.
Yeah.
It's like all built out of the same template.
Yeah.
They're still big though. They're like being attacked by like a 3-foot tall dog.
Right. This
Like,
is like
even though they swarm you, it's
a mastiff.
Oh, yeah.
comes and
The scale of
Yeah.
everything in 40K is just bumped up a little bit.
yeah, maybe even 4 feet tall. Like they're still fucking big.
They're
they're
pretty
still
big.
large.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But this is like how do you think these gaunts act in No Synapse? What do you think?
It depends on the specific adaptation, like the flying ones.
What do you
I
think?
know, I think all of them are gonna still lurk. Like I think that the flying ones will go land and hide somewhere. I think all of them will lurk.
Do you think there ever gets a point where, because these like to operate in groups, right?
Yeah.
They say that large numbers in a brood.
Yeah.
Do you think it ever gets to the point where if their number is large enough in the brood, they might change their behaviors?
I 100%
Yeah,
think that
that's
for
yeah.
sure.
So like if
Yeah.
it's 1 to 20, 30, yes, they lurk, they're hiding.
Yeah.
But if there's a group of 10,000 of these
Right.
without
Yeah.
a synapse creature, they just turn into a stampede.
Yeah.
that
Sure.
goes
They'll just rampage.
just going to whatever's closest and they just attack. So,
100% I can
yeah,
see that. Sure.
you can even say that like their base instincts change depending on circumstance
Sure.
outside the synapse.
Sure.
So
Yeah. Rippers. Rippers. are up
Rippers.
next. The largest model in
Rippers.
my army. Rippers are small and have a similar shape to maggots. Their main function is to devour all material on a planet, collecting the biomass for the Tyranid race.
Yup, that's not about describes it. So these are the most numerous of any Tyranid species and can be very dangerous in large groups, but they are completely mindless and they will die if not synapsed to the hive mind. So it there's kind of two competing thoughts, and I don't think you can really reconcile how they work.
Okay.
So that's like a 5th edition codex description of them.
Okay.
And then in a different book called Deathwatch Mark of the Xenos, they're
Yeah.
described as Rippers can actually burrow underground
Yeah.
and then be born into any kind of Tyranid creature they
really?
desire. So
that seems very
As-
contradictory
yeah,
to
they-
what we know.
it's like they're supposed to be from like the observations of a Magos
He just lied. That's all.
It's sure, but so they conclude that like with the right instructions from the hive mind, once the synapse leaves, these things will burrow, and then grow into any kind of Tyranid creature.
Yeah.
So you want a Carnifex? Sure. You want
That's
a
weird.
Tyrannocyte? Sure. Like anything that you want, apparently they grow into. So I think those are two pretty competing
Very.
attitudes because
Yeah, I don't think either one's right. Because even the whole, if they're not synapse, they will die. Like, I don't think so. I think they just gorge themselves.
That's how they die. Is they
Maybe
gorge
they
themselves to
do.
death.
yeah.
Maybe they do.
I-
Their stomachs explode.
I definitely
maybe,
see.
yeah, maybe they do.
I
but-
definitely see the need for a synapse for them. They're designed to collect biomass,
Yeah.
which means like you don't need a lot of sensors. Like you don't need big brain function to do that. Like you're
Yeah.
probably only a big stomach sac with teeth that can like break down material,
Right.
right? And maybe some tiny muscles that can move your limbs or whatever. So
And we don't even know if like the node jewel or whatever to receive the synapse signal is a brain, right? Like maybe it's just like a little thing, right? Like that they put in or not.
Yeah,
A-
there's
and so
some-
like maybe it just does die if there's no synapse because it doesn't have brain function to tell it to continue going.
yeah, this one's a little tough, especially like I also think those are two very crazy statements.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're
Like,
like
they're
polar
very-
opposites.
Yeah, and they're also very unique. Like I've never Like no Tyranid can ever turn into another Tyranid. That's
Yeah.
Right.
that's something that's
And
always
only-
seemed like an impossibility.
And almost all Tyranid creatures can't even reproduce with themselves.
Absolutely,
either,
yeah.
so-
I think only gene stealers.
Yeah, and even them, I don't think they reproduce with other
They
gene stealers.
they need a Xenos race
Right,
to
they're like
impregnate.
implanting their lineage.
Yes, like I thought you had to have like a Norn Queen. Maybe a Turvagon can do something.
Yeah.
Well, even a Turvagon is like genetically coded to be only able to birth gaunts.
Yeah, but even at that point, like, is it birthing them or is it taking them from the Norn Queen? And
Actually, that's true.
Yeah,
Yeah,
so-
Could
'cause we
just
talked
be a
about that
sack,
last time.
carrying sack.
yeah.
yeah, so I think those are two really interesting ways to describe Rippers.
Yeah, it's interesting. That's crazy. So that source was Deathmark or Deathwatch Mark of the Xenos.
Yeah,
Which is like a third party thing.
is it Fantasy Flight?
Yeah.
Yeah,
They're,
Fantasy Flight is pretty good for
they're
the
pretty
most part.
good, but like
Every once in a while, sure. Like it's not Games Workshop official. It's just
Yeah.
licensed by Games
Yeah,
Workshop.
like-
So I don't know.
It never came out in an old codex. Like, it's just
Yeah, and the whole dying if they're not mindless, or sorry, dying if they're not synapsed is 5th edition. So it's not as early as I've seen some things that
Sure.
are still considered canon.
Right.
But it's also not the most recent iteration of how Rippers act either. So
Yeah.
I don't know. I think you could really like go either way on that one.
I think personally, I have to take the dying at face value
5th
thing
edition?
because you could just say so much can happen with the Tyranids if like strategically they could pull Synapse to burrow a whole horde of Rippers and just pop them up as Carnifexes like
Yeah.
a week later, right?
Or Hierophants.
Like that's what I mean. It's just
Yeah.
it
Right?
seemed because the Hive Mind could why couldn't it pull Synapse strategically? So
Absolutely.
it totally has that capability
It sets
to
like
just
the
spawn
rule.
something on a planet.
Go burrow, prepare yourself to be Hierophants. We're
Right.
leaving.
There's
and
no
they,
way
and they
that's what they do.
abandon that front for how long it takes
years.
for them to grow, and they go conquer other parts of the planet while they're doing this, and
Right.
just fucking 10 Hierophants.
Like if
up here.
Tyranids had that capability, it would be written about a
Yes,
lot more.
I think you would
Yeah.
see it more often. I agree. I think that Games Workshop.
Not that it's
has
not
kind of
cool,
glossed over it.
but it's not accurate. I think to what's
Yeah.
written about the Nids.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it was there, so I figured I'd
Yeah,
put
yeah,
it
it's cool.
in.
It's cool to
to-
think about
yeah.
for sure.
Yeah.
The last of the small creatures, we have spore mines. So small mindless sacks that float across the battlefield filled with. Do you not like the pixelization? Filled with acid, poison, or gas. When triggered, they will explode, releasing their payload on whoever ventured too close.
Actually, just a JPEG of some nutsack
Yes, sir. Yes.
I mean,
Mine
ready
are in
to
there,
release
but if
their
you can
payload.
guess which one is mine?
It's that one.
the purple
That
ones.
is it.
I've seen it before.
you
It's a
have to get
nightmare.
You have to get the vice to make them that color, though.
God.
So we only have a couple more to go through now, but these are all like considered very tiny,
Yeah,
tiny
these are, like,
little species.
Actual bug-sized
Yeah.
creatures. And
Or parasites even. Some of
Yeah.
them aren't even, they don't even have physical presences that we'll
Yeah.
get into.
Yeah.
So let's go to the flesh borer beetle. So they live in hives, such as the flesh borer rifle carried by some species of Tyranids. The beetles lay eggs, which hatch and mature at a very rapid pace.
yeah.
They lay in a semi-dormant state in the hive until they are shot out by an electrochemical shock activated by a neural impulse of the wielder of the hive. Hive is in like some hive that's living on
Yeah.
your body.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, the guns are typically called flesh borer hives or some kind
Yeah.
of thing like
Yeah,
that.
and it's a part of their body, right? These hives are sustaining themselves based on like whatever nutrients are coming from their host body and everything.
Yeah.
So.
The one interesting thing about these guys is these are one of the few ones that actually do have the ability to lay eggs, hatch, and reproduce
Outside.
outside of like Norn Queens.
Yeah.
So the beetles then fly at a target and upon impact will start to burrow furiously, expending all their life energy in the process. So they get shot out, they just burrow for a couple seconds.
Super
excruciating
super
pain
tick.
To be
Super
burrowed
fucking tight.
into.
Yeah, because I imagine these would, I don't know how big they'd be, but maybe like the size of your fist.
Yeah, I imagine them to
That
be like
seems so big.
in the size of your palm, maybe. This
Yeah.
is like a 4-inch
I was thinking
beetle.
like a big bumblebee, like the size of your thumb.
Maybe, I don't know.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I
I mean, we
imagine
have no fucking clue,
if
actually.
one flesh borer beetle the size of my fist, I'm dead.
Oh,
well,
yes.
but there are different weapon profiles that use flesh borers, though. So you could argue that there's bigger and smaller flesh borers
Sure.
that
Yeah.
have incubated for longer in the hive.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, I never.
Because
thought
like
of
a termagant has a flesh borer gun that's going to be small,
Sure.
but the Tyranifex has the massive flesh borer hive, and they actually have like armor penetration in.
Oh,
in the
that makes
profile.
sense.
Yeah,
that
that's-
depending on who's firing it, the size of the beetle would be quite different.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
I'm
Wild.
with you. I'm with you. Flesh worms. So these worms are actually malformed ripper larvae.
That's nice.
Yeah, I thought this was a
Interesting.
very interesting thing because you don't normally see like a
Error in
an
production.
error.
Yeah.
So they nest in a hive symbiotically attached to a host body, very similar to what the flesh borer beetle does. And they feed on that body before changing into the worm and being fired from a weapon.
Yeah.
And then the fired worms are parasites with black, shiny heads. And when they
Nice.
hit, they begin to burrow into flesh, eating their way to the victim's brain.
That's nice. That's what we like.
It's good time stuff.
I wonder if
Brains.
these flesh worms are produced when a ripper is like somehow birthed outside of Synapse.
Oh, well, wouldn't they only be birthed from Norn Queens? And Norn Queens are synapse
Are
creatures?
always in Synapse?
They're
Yeah.
just synapse creatures.
That's
so.
true, I guess, eh? Never mind.
There isn't a Norn Queen model ever, right?
Nah, unfortunately, there isn't.
The closest they've come to is the
Dominatrix,
Dominatrix, which has a Norn Queen inside of it, but you don't actually.
Is there a model for the Dominatrix?
Yeah, for like Titanicus or
Oh.
Epic, I guess.
Yeah, I
It
think
would
it's
be-
Epic.
yeah, it'd be
Forever
called
ago.
now, or it was called then.
Yeah.
Yeah, Epic.
To
Yeah,
make one. One will be sold.
I want to see it. I want to touch it.
So one of the other ones we have is pathogenesis. So this is more of a virus than it is a creature. And the pathogenesis resides within a body and causes the body to explode with mutations. So
That's fun.
You know how like you put what are those like spines that they generate the bioelectricity and they cause them to be a shock? What are those called? Shock spines?
Sure.
Like the Tragon thing?
Yeah.
It's like a bioelectric rattle or something.
Whatever it is, like if that biomorph inhabits a body and then this pathogenesis is also in that body, it just ramps up what that biomorph is capable of doing.
Oh, okay.
It causes it to grow bigger, to get stronger, to shoot farther, generate more electricity. Same with like musculature structures. Like, hey, a Carnifex can normally run this fast, but with pathogenesis, its muscles are twice as dense and much stronger and better. So
Where's this in the rules?
this is a
really cool.
new relic that you take in Blood of Baal.
Oh, okay.
That's
Okay.
what pathogenesis is from.
Sweet.
Yeah, it's very interesting, but it just causes your body to explode with mutated power. It's awesome.
Yeah. Very cool.
I like to think, though, that it doesn't work perfectly because it takes so much energy to do this that whatever you're doing it on is just done. Like
Right,
once
it
it's
like
done
goes like
exploding.
super mode and then
Yeah, it's like you've hit Super Saiyan 9 and then all of a sudden you've destroyed your own body. or
Almost
Sure.
9.
Yeah.
Get out of here.
But it does everything too. Even like if it has a flesh borer beetle gun,
Yeah.
it will also infect the flesh borer beetles inside, and it causes them to be stronger, fire faster, more armor penetration. Everything that's in the body, this pathogenesis is affecting.
Now, can the pathogenesis infect non-Tyranid things?
Not that I'm aware of. No.
Yeah, like, why would it?
Well, okay. So it can spread itself once it has mutated its host, and it rides along like the currents of electricity given off by its host or along the ammunition it fires. But like, so maybe yes, it can travel to like a human, but I don't see it giving any kind of benefit to a human.
The
And
human might
it's-
be a carrier, but it's not.
Right.
Yeah, I don't even see it attacking the human. It's more just like, hey, if
Right.
it comes into contact with another Tyranid, now it's going to boost that thing's.
Sure. It would just die out if it's not attaching to a Tyranid organism.
It's just a guess at that point.
Right.
It doesn't describe it.
Of course, yeah, that's
beyond
just
what it-
speculative.
yeah.
Cool.
But
if
I
it
love this.
Also triggered a mutation, but it would just blow them up or
Yeah, you just
something because it's
die.
like, oh, I have
Yeah.
like 20 extra arms.
Yeah, I love the.
Or your arm just gets huge and you're dragging around a giant arm, but it's like
But it's not really helpful.
It's like
'cause-
Akira.
Yeah, all of a sudden I have a 20-pound arm. What do we do with that?
But yeah, I really liked this pathogenesis and reading about it. It's
very cool.
It was very.
It even
cool.
just shows like that, like that's a virus. Like Tyranids have all crazy life forms, like
like they.
from massive hive.
This is
ships
like a new
to,
species
like,
for them.
just the tiniest little virus or spores that like invade your lungs. Like, it's just all wild.
And then we'll also do the venom thorn parasite.
Yeah,
Whew, someone else want to read?
this organism. Word.
Sure.
I'll do a word. You do a word.
Bet, yeah.
or latches.
Onto
Tyranid
Tyranid.
that
Already.
has stranglehold
Thorn.
or
Cannon.
it's already gone.
Yeah,
We're already
you guys
done.
lasted like 8 words.
It's hard.
We're not
Eric.
Hive Mind. So it latches onto a Tyranid that already has a Stranglethorn cannon or Venom cannon biomorph. It sends itself into both the weapon and the host, creating a much stronger link between them than before. In battle, the parasite takes control of the host and the cannon and sends the weapon into overdrive, causing as much damage as possible until the threat is dead. Very similar to the pathogenesis. It kind of enhances things, but
It does, but the difference is that this venom thorn parasite takes control of the host.
that's kind of cool.
It
Yeah.
overrides the host's
Sure.
ability to choose, whereas the
Right.
pathogenesis just enhances your
Sure.
ability to do stuff.
Sure.
But yeah,
It's pretty cool.
It definitely has the similarity. Yeah,
Enhancements.
yeah,
That's fun.
it is very cool. I loved the thought of Tyranid parasites, and I
Yeah.
think whoever wrote the Blood of Baal Psychic Awakening book also seemed to really like it. There's even another one that we didn't include because it's seems like a synapse parasite. It's the crown that goes into someone's skull,
Yeah.
enhances their ability to use psychic powers and stuff. But they seem to very much be going down the route of tiny little things that really affect these large things in drastic ways.
Yeah, like
I
Tyranids
love
are
it.
just so dangerous when you really think about them. Like, how do you compete against any of this shit? Like, especially when you start getting into the virus territory.
Absolutely.
Right.
Especially if their muscles can just fire things. It almost
At
baffles
at
understanding.
incredible velocities.
Yeah, how does that work? I don't know.
I don't know. Love it.
Whew.
And the last creature we're going to talk about is the Scataphagoid.
Scataphagoid. Scataphagoid? Scataphagoid.
Yeah, you can enunciate whichever syllable you want.
Scataphagoid.
Scataphagoids.
Scataphagoid.
Scataphagoids are beetle-sized organisms that inhabit the bioship specifically. Their sole purpose is to clean the respiratory tracts and recycle organic material that they find. So they are
Little
just
janitors.
janitor bugs.
Janitor bugs.
I love it.
How did they find out about this one?
I don't know.
I mean, I guess
Maybe
you
a
can.
hive ship crashed.
Right.
And they went through and like, oh, this looks like a distinct organism that is cleaning its respiratory system.
Well, the Magos biologists, like, that's what their sole purpose is, just like dissect things. And Xenos Magos biologists, is that what it's?
Don't yell.
So, okay.
I mean, you can imagine like
Apologies,
they encounter a bioship and there's some kind of infiltration sent to it, and maybe they're just these
Swimming
little
around
beetles
in
that
its-
just kind of like
in
they
its
just skitter across the
vessels.
floor, but they're not like coming to attack you.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah. They're pretty cool.
But yeah.
Little tiny parasite
little
janitors.
beetles.
Yeah. So that's all the creatures. Tyranids are constantly making new ones.
Yeah.
Some are being like abandoned. But yeah, it's a lot of stuff. It's a lot of info.
It's a lot of stuff.
It's I like thinking of what happens when like the Tyranids don't get synapse. Like how do they act? What does that mean? Is it really better to keep the synapse? And so
Yeah.
it's
It doesn't make sense that it would ever be better for the synapse to be around, to me. But
To not be around.
probably not. Yeah.
yeah, the synapse.
I'm sure I could come up with a very specific scenario.
Yeah.
For one person, maybe it might
Exactly,
be.
yeah.
But like as a general fight, there's no reason why you'd want the synapse to not be around.
Yes. But
Or to
definitely,
be around, sorry.
Definitely once you have killed a synapse creature, your fight is still not done.
Yeah.
Your fight has really like just begun because now you have to go against things that have lost the ability to make rational decisions, and now they're just acting based on their instincts, and that, can be just as dangerous. So I think that's what we're trying to communicate, is that,
shoot the big ones first,
and
but
then
you still have
really,
to shoot
really
everything
focus on
else.
the small ones.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, they don't just wither away and die.
Yeah.
Contrary to what the books say.
Contrary, yeah.
Very contrary. Yeah.
So the big question is, what happens when Tyranids are abandoned on a planet and left by themselves with no synapse creatures around? Like, we have an example like of during the Battle of McCraig, they leave a bunch of creatures on the planet, and they end up just like creating like little bands of predators, really, depending on what it is. Like Old One Eye was one of these creatures that just went on rampages and stuff. But yeah, like some of these creatures, it's very interesting to think like what actually would happen. Would they eventually become like natural wildlife? Like, yeah, like I know most of them can't reproduce, but just imagine flesh borer hives. They can.
Just an infestation of flesh borers on a planet.
Yeah, right.
From a leftover
Well, you have
Tyranid
to,
invasion.
like, don't flesh borers need that stimulus in order to shoot out? They have to be shot out by an electrochemical shock activated by a neural impulse.
Yeah.
Because without that, they lay in a semi-dormant state.
Yeah, but
So, yeah, I'm wondering, like, maybe they would inhabit the planet or whatever, but are they as dangerous
What
as
if a
being
l-
shot out of a gun?
What if there's a thunderstorm and they all wake up?
That would be crazy. It just each hive is just a grenade waiting to be
Yeah.
hit by
All of
lightning.
a sudden,
and-
there's like a massive swarm of bugs, and they're like, "What the fuck?"
Wait, I thought it was just a regular
It's
lightning
just
storm.
raining. Now there's
Sure, but then they just go
locusts.
straight in one direction and then burrow until they die.
Right.
Yeah,
but
but
they,
there
Tyranids-
definitely would be things that would change.
yeah.
Yeah.
Like even if those rippers could actually form up and like change into creatures, like that'd be pretty wild. I don't think that's how it works, but you could have like
How would it choose?
Well, the hive mind has to give it an instruction apparently before
Sure.
it leaves.
yeah.
It does state that. It says
Right.
the hive mind makes the decision and then it leaves
Yeah.
and then they burrow and turn into something.
Yeah. But even just like, 1,000 termagants like abandoned on a planet, like what do they end up doing? They just go around like it's
They
a-
just keep killing everything until they're all
and, like,
dead.
feeding and we don't know how like long a Tyranid lasts for. Like
Right.
they could survive 20 years. They might
Yeah.
maybe even be immortal to some degree.
Yeah, as long as they have a way to replenish energy stores and
Right.
like which
It do-
ones
I
actually
always
have,
I always get confused about that because it seems to me like the hive mind doesn't typically give things the ability to like. What about those ones that fly that were hollow? I forgot what they were called, but
Harpies?
yeah, like that can't have a stomach if it's hollow.
Right.
So that thing is just
Yeah.
gonna
Yes.
fight until it dies.
Yeah.
Absolutely, but
It's not
there are
eating.
some Tyranid species that actually do have stomachs and actually have digestion
Yes.
tracts. So are those
Right.
ones able to survive perhaps indefinitely? Like,
It's interesting.
what's
Well,
the
like,
rate of their
yeah.
like organism half life?
But do they have a way of actually converting them into energy,
Yeah.
or is it just that they can like compost, like break things down?
Sure, yeah, and just poop it out the other side,
Yeah.
ready for someone else to actually absorb.
The way I kind of think of Tyranids is that each organism is like created with like a calorie expenditure, right? And they just like once they've burned through that, then they just kind of like shrivel up into like
Sure.
a little crustacean and dry out in the sun, you know?
That's always the impression I got too,
For
except
sure.
for maybe like gene stealers.
Right.
There's
There's
a-
exceptions,
yeah.
But other than that, that's the impression I
Well,
get too. Is like
lictors.
they're just there for.
Lictors have to be able to survive for extended periods on their own. So do any
Yeah.
of their drone ships.
Yeah.
You know, they
Right.
might
But, like-
might never go back to the hive mind. So how do they continue to sustain themselves?
Yeah.
And-
Almost all Tyranid creatures have mouths, so and what's the point if it's not for eating?
Well,
yeah,
I-
I just
like-
don't know if it's
Because
ever.
it's not like a particularly good weapon compared to what they could put there. So like I don't know. I think a Termagant, I think it does have the ability to eat and feed and like
my thing
get
is,
more calories to survive.
my thing is they're so specific with the biomorphs that they describe that
Yeah.
like they would probably tell you if there's a stomach in a Termagant.
Either
Yeah,
that or
I
they
just-
consider it as all of them have it,
I just feel like though.
unless explicitly said not.
I guess.
Yeah, I just feel like
Teeth and claws.
why would
are
they
a
make a
biomorph.
Tyranid that burns out? So it's like a gaunt lasts 100 days and then it's just
Right.
dead. or you could give it a stomach and now it can last. Like,
Yeah, but
that's
typically
totally true too.
when you're using a gaunt is you're just firing them at things. So like,
not
what's
all the time
point?
with the hive mind though. You might come against a wall and gaunts the hive mind knows aren't going to do anything, but they've already birthed them all. They're not just going to throw them against the wall because.
No, you'd eat them again. Something would eat
But
them.
maybe it's more energy efficient to produce them without a stomach to sustain themselves. Like maybe it's cheaper to produce another gaunt than it is to include that.
Sure.
We don't know.
I know what
but
you're saying. For
I
sure.
just always get the impression they fire them off. They're gonna die anyway because that's their point, and then
Yeah,
they
yeah.
just get re-eaten.
Yeah,
'Cause
definitely.
the biomass of a Tyranid is still biomass to the Tyranids. It's all recyclable.
Yeah. The only thing I
Green.
have with that is like they either have to be so like energy efficient, because like I don't know, transportation from a plane or from the ship down to the planet, then to where they need to be could take a couple days. I don't know, like, and then they get to the battlefield and they're already drained and they're hungry and they're not useful. I don't know.
I mean, and we don't know how long that
We don't know.
longevity is, right?
Yeah.
Like they could dry out after 20 years, but we have no idea.
Yeah, I like to think that they do have the ability to eat and kind of
It would be sick if they could become the natural
Re-energize.
wildlife
Re-energize.
of a planet or something.
Yeah, I like that. I see it happening, but eventually it will die out because none of them have the ability to reproduce. But
Right,
like
there's
they
that.
could be a plague on the planet for like 20 years.
Until you scour that one like massive stampede of gaunts. or
Yeah.
whatever.
Sure.
Yeah. And
It's open for interpretation.
oh yeah. Okay. Good talk.
Yeah, I definitely think what would happen to a planet if like Synapse all of a sudden left, it all depends on what's on there.
Sure.
We've been going through all of these and saying like, all right, passive or aggressive behaviors, passive or aggressive. If all you've left on there are things that primarily participate in passive behaviors, are you really going to notice it?
Right.
Like, yeah, if a venom thrope is on your planet, you're gonna notice that eventually, right? But if 5 gaunts are on your planet and
Yeah,
their
that you're
primary
not gonna-
behavior is to just lurk,
Yeah.
you'll never see them.
No. But if there's 10,000 left on a planet and they just happen to be inhabiting that forest and you can't deal with 10,000 gaunts,
Yeah.
well, you've lost that forest.
Yeah, exactly. So
Yeah.
I think it all comes down to the individual species that has
Sure.
been created.
Okay, well, back to the top of the list. We'll
Yeah.
go through them all.
All right, so what
again.
happens if you included this and this and this
No,
on a
we're
planet?
literally just list building.
But yeah, I think that it's a matter of luck for
Sure.
that planet. Like,
Sure.
are they lucky enough to only get gaunts on, or is there a Hierophant left on their planet? You know, like,
Yep.
so
Yeah.
pick your poison at that one.
Yeah. Okay, cool.
Yeah, that one. I mean, you can't really have a solid answer. For
No,
it.
no.
It's just
But it's
speculative.
nice to see like what, because James definitely really likes that they just are one-off things. There's
Yeah.
not
They have a
much
battery, and when
there's
the
not-
battery dies,
not a
it's
lot of
done.
longevity to it. But
I think they're both really cool. Either way.
yeah.
Each is just as scary as the next,
Yeah,
really.
absolutely.
Okay. We got a couple of questions from our Discord people that we'll rattle off real quick. There's 5 questions.
The answer is yes, no, yes, maybe, and only on Tuesdays.
And okay, that's
Done.
You're
got her.
welcome.
We got her.
To subscribe
So-
to the Patreon.
DM Bender asks, why don't their big bioships land on planets to help assault?
I think just gravity and stuff you can't.
It would take way too much energy for them to try and clear an atmosphere, and
Yeah.
it's just they're not designed for it.
Or
Yeah.
they might get crushed when they land. Just their own weight would
Yeah,
like
sure.
pull them down into mush.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Very possible.
Yeah. How do they prioritize which worlds they attack?
There's a couple ways they do that, actually.
Sure.
One is gene stealers.
Yeah, that's a big way.
One is just narvals.
Sure, whatever they latch onto.
Yeah. They also have drones, ships that go out
Yep.
and seek out different planets that
Yep.
they think are good. And the other could just be a hive mind decides, like, we need to scour all life in this sector so there's nothing behind us or
Yep.
anything. So
They've
Yeah,
also talked about like sometimes the hive mind gets vengeful for
Yeah.
certain.
absolutely. Like,
Apparently.
that is a crazy thing, too, is like a vengeful, spiteful hive mind.
Yeah.
I love that idea.
No, thank you.
That's cool.
Yeah, it's a scary thought.
We're not actually hungry. We're just here to fuck you up.
And we'll use all the biomass
You know
we
what?
can.
I'm not
That's
even
sick.
hungry, and I'm here. That's terrifying.
Well, that's a cool way to like theme your army too. Like we
Oh,
we
yeah.
don't care about efficiency. We're just pumping out Hierophant Titans to annihilate you because you've wronged us.
you slighted us.
Yeah, it's fucking cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then his last one is, have they ever attacked a craft world?
Yeah, there's some examples. I forget which one. Prince Ilian.
It's Eandon, right?
Eandon, yeah, I think Eandon.
Well, and then the whole
Yellow
Doom
and
of
blue.
Malantai story is
Yeah.
like a
Oh, yeah.
single
That one's
organism that like
wild.
wiped out an entire like I don't know if it's a craft world, but an Eldar planet, which
Yeah.
was scoured and then like left barren.
Yeah.
Yeah. When you talked about that, that was the first time that I had ever heard of the Doom of Malantai.
Very cool, yeah, and it's an Eldar
such
story.
totally worth looking at.
Yeah.
And reading the article.
It's a short but sweet lexicanum article.
There's another craft world that they got invaded and then they summoned an avatar of Cain and they're like, yes, we're saved. And then the Hive Mind created like just a fucking brood of Carnifexes and just trampled the avatar of Cain. It's like,
fucking
awesome.
That's wild.
yeah. So Volkswagen Jetta Hive Tyrant asks, I know the Death Watch hunt Xenos, but how exactly do they hunt down and fight Tyranids when them scrambling warp and communication? How do they even know? How do they even come close to stopping the Nids? I think a lot of the time it's the Nids are invading, and then people respond because they know when planets are like the Imperium has been engaged with the Tyranids for long enough to know the signs of an upcoming invasion.
All of a sudden, all warp and like astral telepathy has been cut off. Like, there's something big happening.
But-
Let's go send something.
Yeah, but
there.
even before that, like the planets start to get like unusual, like volcanic activity and
Rise
stuff
of
like.
cultists on the planet.
Yeah, exactly. So at that point,
Yeah.
like they know the signs, they call for help. So help should arrive hopefully before the Nid fleet does.
Yeah.
Um,
And the Death Watch doesn't fight it all on their own. They're fighting it with Guard. They're
Yeah.
fighting it with PDFs. They're fighting it with other Space Marine
Yeah.
forces. So
And another really big thing about Death Watch too is they have watch stations, where
everywhere.
everywhere. So it's not that the Death Watch are at one specific spot. They have a home world and then they have to travel places. They have kill teams set up across the galaxy to help deal
Yeah.
with threats.
And then they're just engaging the
Yeah.
fight like on their own terms, and they're commanding the forces because
Yeah.
they outrank everyone. So.
but could be any number of those things for sure. Felipe asks, if you could be killed by any Tyranid, which would you choose?
Oh, I know.
Oh,
Yeah, I got one too.
I'm gonna pick that Cortex Leech.
Oh,
Yes.
'Cause I'm gonna join the Hive Mind.
yes,
That's
live
great.
forever. They're not gonna dissolve you in the
ascend
bio.
me.
You're a gene stealer cultist,
I
basically.
would be.
So the one you would choose is the acid vats, where they just like after you
At some
risen
point,
up-
yes, I would throw
Right.
myself
Yeah.
into the pools
Willingly.
of reclamation and
Yes.
be joined as one with my god.
Yep.
Perfect.
Yeah.
That's what we all want.
Problem?
No, you're great.
All right.
I think I would take the kiss of death from the gaping maw of the Demasheron.
Get inside.
Yeah.
Get in it.
It's mandibles just.
Yeah, it
Come in.
and then you just get crunched up.
Can I
Or
be
getting
skewered?
stepped on.
Yeah, can I be skewered by the giant one?
The Hierophant.
That's the one I choose.
It's
Like,
tipped
top
enters
down,
your neck,
yeah.
and at some point you just
Lobotomy,
disappear into mist.
Yeah.
No, I would like a banana split.
Like lightning hitting a tree.
Yeah, exactly.
That's nice.
That's how I want to go.
Just a massive, and then
not
your
bad.
body just.
yeah, exactly.
I couldn't even be mad if I got killed by a Carnifex. You know, it's just
You love it too much.
it's the way of the world.
Mark's like masturbating as the Carnifex comes towards him.
I'm ready.
I've been waiting for this for years.
Oh my god, it's finally happening!
Mom, it's happening.
He's taking selfies as it's coming.
Yeah. David asks, when you're eaten by Tyranids, is your soul taken into the Hive Mind? I'm reading Valedor by Guy Haley, and it does seem to imply that in a few cases, but I know that Black Library isn't 100% on its canon lore.
That doesn't even sound comparable to me. They're so different.
So, like, vastly speaking, probably that would never happen. But
Yeah.
then there's, like, the one case of the Doom of Malantai kind of saying that it's taking the life energy from the Eldar that it's killed and becoming stronger.
But that's isn't that on an individual level? Like, is the Doom
Yeah.
of Malantai the Hive Mind?
it's the only doom of Malantai, so I don't know.
Right, but it might just be a single species and it's feeding on things.
Yeah, you could argue that like the hive mind produced it to trap the Eldar soul before it makes it to the Wraithbone construct or whatever, like some weird ass wacky one time off kind of like just to focus on this target, but like broadly speaking, of course the souls don't go into the hive mind. I think they're just like they die.
Yeah, if you get killed by a gaunt, you're not getting devoured.
Your
Like,
soul goes
into
wherever
the
it
warp.
goes, and then your body gets turned into poop.
Yeah, exactly.
And then more Tyranids.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Only one Bob asked, do you think there is one huge singular Tyranid out in the depths of space beyond the galaxy that all the hive fleets feed back into? Or do you think there's a single Nid running the whole race?
I hope the Great Devourer is a real thing.
Like it's an actual being.
I hope so. Yeah, that would be so cool.
Many times I've
pondered in the night what
Well,
really is in
when-
the dark depths of space.
when you try and think back to the beginning of like the origin story of the Tyranids, you always like wonder what came first. Was it the Tyranid race or was it the hive mind itself?
Right.
And if it's the Tyranid race that existed first, I would think there's a single being that is generating the hive mind and being its source.
Yeah.
And then all others go into it. If it's the hive mind that came first, then I don't think there's a single being. And I think it's just literally at some point the Tyranids grew into enough beings to manifest the hive mind. And at that point on, it has assumed control. But yeah, I don't know. I'm either or really, because I can't concretely pick one.
In my headcanon, I would imagine the Great Devourer as a single being kind of created from the amalgamation of all of the Tyranids into like this so you imagine that the hive mind can control each and everything in such a specific, precise way that it could like form into a massive construct made out of all of these swarming bugs.
That's nice.
And then control them through space and, like just this massive thing that's like it actually eats a world or something because it's just like closing in with like all these bugs.
I guess another way to potentially think about it is, could the hive mind create, like direct a Norn Queen or something to create a body that it could then inhabit, right? Like, could it even inhabit a body? Could it create something that is capable of withstanding whatever powers generated by the hive mind? And
maybe
here's the thing. I like the idea of there being like this big brain bug. Like it is the hive mind, and it is the hive mind, this oozing brain.
Yeah.
I like that, but at the same time, it kind of takes away from the idea of this hive mind being like the amalgamation of all of the Tyranids together.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. I like the idea of that big brain bug, but at the same time, it kind of takes away from the whole thing. So,
yeah.
Well, in my years of experience, I got nothing. I like. I don't like one single creature.
No?
No, I don't like it.
What about the idea that there's something in the galaxy that all things they're just trying to collect mass and then feed it back into an even larger grouping of Tyranids?
Yeah.
What about that?
Yeah, that's kind of my idea is that, if you were to actually amass everything, like, and then it would just act as one body that's so enormous that it could be like a giant creature, but it's just like created out of the sheer volume of small individual creatures into like huge anime mech, but it's like a massive alien thing.
its tentacles are like planet-wide sized.
Right, yeah, like
and
it's
they just like reach solar systems.
Well, that's...
yeah.
I don't even think that's particularly far-fetched from how Tyranids act now. All you have to do is look at the pictures of the galactic map, and you see how they draw the Tyranid hive fleets. They actually represent them as tentacles,
Fingers
coming in
or whatever.
from like tendrils coming in from outside. So if maybe what we're seeing is, just the detritus leaking from something, and we haven't even seen a full appendage yet. Right. And we can't even comprehend how large this multiple organism created by organisms
so I like
really
to think
is.
of it,
So, yeah, it's like the horror hasn't even reached us yet,
Yeah. That argument's cool. I also like. I don't think that the single organism thing makes much sense for Tyranids either. I agree with you guys, but it would also be sick if like there was just this mass sacrifice of biomass to like create this massive monstrosity that was like deemed efficient enough to take care of anything alone. You know.
Yeah, like I wouldn't be butthurt if that's what it turned out to be.
Right,
Like,
like
I'd be
a
okay
culling
with
of
it.
the entire race to sacrifice for one omniscient hive mind.
Maybe that's what drives their hunger right now. It's he's like, I need
Gathering.
more. Yeah, the hive mind is I need more. I'm
The
not
great
ready
devourer
yet.
is coming.
Yeah, and at some point I will have collected enough biomass to birth my sentient body or whatever that I will inhabit, and that would be pretty cool too.
That would be, just universe destroying creature that just like can swath through planets in like a
it literally consumes
movement.
planets. And,
Right.
Yeah.
Just chomps them for breakfast.
All I know is two things. I don't like when people think that Tyranids are created by the old ones.
Right.
Fucking idiots. And sorry, those goddamn fucking idiots. Eric, is that what you want? What do you want me to say? Shitiots?
That's a strong stance.
Smooth brains.
No, I don't like that whole, that seems nonsense to me.
I think it's
But-
trying too hard to connect everything
Yeah.
in a galaxy where it doesn't need to be
The
connected.
other thing I really don't like is that there's a chaos god of devouring, and that the Tyranids are his
No.
beings. Like they're not.
It's
demons.
another problem of trying to connect everything. Like Tyranids don't come from our galaxy. What makes you think they even interact with the warp in even remotely the same way we do? We already know they don't. So.
Yeah. So those are the two things. But yeah, if they came out with a giant creature, great. If they didn't, great. I'm okay either way.
Yeah. If it's just the Gestalt consciousness, or if there's actually a singular being controlling it. Yeah. I also think I'd be happy either or.
Yep.
I just want to see it written perfectly horror, very Lovecraftian.
I want it to be scarier. Yeah.
Yes, I want the Tyranids to truly be a horror. And Necron. Necron is another horror aspect that I hope they really ramp up in 9th edition, and they don't just take it from it's a boogeyman.
Spooky, scary.
Well, did you hear about
Spooky, scary
that
Yeah.
story? Did you
Send
read the
shivers down
story
your
they
spine.
released?
Well, I've read a couple of them. They've released a couple stories in this.
The
whole
one
thing.
with the whatever the
Was it the mining world?
No, the one where it was the guard and the I forget, what are the ones that are all deranged and wear flesh?
Flares.
Flayers, yeah. The one wears. If you haven't read that one,
I don't think
I've
I've read that one, yeah. But
That one's
Necron lend
horror.
themselves to horror, and Tyranids really lend themselves to horror. We were looking
Yeah.
at a couple pictures, and that Cthulhu look
Yeah,
to Tyranids,
tentacle
I
mouth.
really like.
Yeah.
And I can see how some people might not agree with that because they're like, oh, they're their own thing. Don't make them like the Cthulhu monsters or whatever. But I think it's so well done.
Sure.
When they look like that.
Looks
so,
good. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's way more alien than them just having a mouth with teeth.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Get teeth, and then get mandibles, and then get feeders, and then get something else, and then get something that no one even knows what it is. You don't even have to describe what it does. Just say it's alien. So.
Yeah. Cool.
Cool. Well, before we actually end the episode, we want to say thank you to all of our new patrons.
Yeah.
First of all, thanks to all of our old ones for sticking around.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you're welcome.
Yeah.
Thanks, Ian.
James, or no, Eric, Big Dick for Eric, or
Yeah,
BBC for.
Yeah, BBC for Eric.
Yeah, thank the two of you and everyone else who supports us.
Don't like that.
Is that your donor name? Classic.
But I'm just going to go down the list and just to thank everyone. So we have Brody, the one and only Alex, Justin, Mr. Lockstock, Barry, Manny, Jack, Alexander, Christopher, Bach Wow, Satan's Asshole the Wild Let Wild, Blaine, Eklund, Fallen Sandwich, Alex, Daniel, Grunsmat, Brooks, Benjamin, Dat3 Udi, Captain Cook, Christopher, Brandon, the Corgi Orgy, the Corgi Orgy, Zane, and Thomas. Those are all of our new patrons. Thank you so much, guys.
Thank
we
you.
really appreciate it.
Yeah. Here's my new Patreon sales pitch.
Oh yeah.
Okay, so I guess people like the podcast, right?
Sometimes I guess.
I've heard
Yeah.
that. So people want more of the podcast.
Yeah.
I like doing the podcast. I want to do more of the podcast. Give me money, I'll do more of the podcast. How's
Pay
that
me.
How's that for a
sense.
sales
Yeah.
pitch?
There you go.
Everyone wins. You get more of what you want. I get what I want. Everyone wins. Okay.
We can
Lowly
pay
little
for
Aaron.
an air conditioning unit in here.
We got one. It's
hot.
on
It is
order.
so
Well,
hot
fuck,
in
there you
here
go.
right
Yeah,
now.
It's a
yeah.
little stanky in here too.
Oh, it's
Yeah.
so gross.
Yeah.
We are
but
sweaty.
it is on order, so we're gonna be good. So
Yeah, because
That's
it's only
great.
going to get hotter this summer.
Yeah.
So we
Yeah.
got an aircon unit. We have a heater in the winter, aircon in the summer.
Mm-hmm.
This studio is pretty much done at this point. So we're almost on phase 2
phase 2, yeah.
of our 30 phase plan
Yeah, yeah.
to rule the galaxy.
Yeah.
So phase 1 was build a studio.
Yeah, well, you need a headquarter. You need a place to plan.
Of course, yeah. This is
Mm-hmm.
our lair.
Phase 2, you need to be comfortable in that headquarter.
course,
That's
yes.
the AC unit.
Of
That's
course.
the heat.
And then phases 3 through 49 are just fundraisers.
Oh,
Yeah, all of them are just. Anyways, we will see you guys next time.
yeah. Thanks for joining us. See you later, boys. Thank you.
So yeah, thanks for having us.